I pledge allegiance
flag
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. The next planning board regular meeting will be held September 4th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom. And the next planning board special meeting will be held August 14th in person, or you can watch on Zoom. A roll call, please, Yamilet.
Mr. Albert,
Here.
Mr. Cardoza,
Present.
Ms. Gaffer,
here,
Mr. Klein,
Here.
Mr. Smeraldo,
Here.
Mr. Wilks,
Here.
Council President Rutherford,
Here.
Mayor McCartney,
Present.
Mr. Guarino,
Present.
Chairman Bago.
Here.
And just for the record, Mr. Morgan is not joining us tonight.
Thank you. So the first thing on the agenda is the minutes of the June 5th, 2024 West Orange Planning Board meeting. I make a motion, we adopt the West Orange Planning Board draft minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Smeraldo seconds on the motion, Yamilet.
Mr. Albert,
Was not here for that meeting.
but you did hear to the audio and I got.
Yes,
that.
I did. So in that case, yes.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Smeraldo,
Yes.
Mr. Wilks, same thing. You heard the
Yes.
audio, correct?
Yes.
Council President Rutherford,
Yes.
Mayor McCartney,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Chairman Bago.
Yes, motion carries.
I wasn't there on June 10th. I'm sorry. I have to say abstain.
it was June.
You get that, Yamilet?
Or, I'm sorry, July 10th? Or what was the
No,
date?
June.
Sorry again?
June 5.
June 5. I'm sorry. Go ahead. All right, good.
So you
Sorry.
were there. I have you.
Right. All right. Sorry.
All good?
Yep.
Outstanding. PB 24-02 Wonder Group Incorporated, Block 152.01, Lot 1445.01, Zone B. The applicant is requested to be adjourned to the Planning Board regular meeting on September 4th, 2024. There will not be any requirement for any additional notice. PB 24-06 410 Main Street Holdings LLC, Block 113, Lot 262, 264, and 308. 410 Main Street. Applicant is proposing a 3-story mixed-use development with 12 residential dwelling units above, ground floor parking, and commercial spaces. For the applicant.
Yes, good evening, Chairman Benjamin Wine of Prime 2 Bell and Misali on behalf of the applicant. How's everybody doing this evening? Good. All right, so with that, what I'm going to do, I know that this project began 2 months ago at the June meeting where my colleague Jason Tuvell presented the application in my stead. I was elsewhere that evening, but what I'm going to do, given that it's been 2 months, I'm going to give a brief summary of our application and advise who I intend to call as witnesses and go through our presentation in detail. So just very briefly, the property, as you know, is currently vacant and most recently housed a dilapidated residential dwelling that required demolition as the actual applicant was unable to procure a certificate of occupancy upon closing on the project on the property due to its dilapidated state. While the lots to the west are zoned as residential, that's further up Park Drive North, the whole Main Street corridor, as you know, is zoned B2 to encourage more downtown vibe on a street that is arterial and transit oriented. While there are several commercial uses that are permitted specifically outright in this zone, the governing body and this planning board actually recognized through the master plan and a change in the zoning in 2020 that the mixed use development that we're proposing here this evening should also be considered subject to certain conditions. As you'll hear, as we go specifically into our planning testimony down the road, we are properly cited before this board specifically because we meet those conditions that are outlined for mixed use development. You'll also hear that due to the site's topography and its corner location, as well as the B2 bulk requirements not really working so well with this particular site, we are seeking a number of bulk variances or C variances as part of our application. And lastly, we're also aware that I'm sorry, is somebody speaking? I'm getting an echo. Okay. There have also been a number of proposals for this site over the years. We had multiple conversations with your prior planner, with Mr. Greigel, as the years went on. At some point, I believe there was a 5-story development proposal to the zoning board. There were also several internal proposals that never made it to a board. But ultimately, we feel that what's here this evening, being a planning board application, is an appropriate and viable development that will enhance the goals that you have set forth in your master plan for Main Street. We do have several variances that accompany this application. As I indicated at the beginning, they are all of the C variance variety, hence why we are before this board and not the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Our planner will go through them in detail, but you'll hear from our foundational witnesses as well as to what the nature of those areas of relief are and why exactly we're seeking them. Ultimately, our proposal is to develop the site with a new 3-story mixed-use building that would consist of 12 residential units above ground floor active storefront use along Main Street and a parking garage in the rear. The goal of the ground floor is to activate that Main Street frontage and bring it down to grade where it's currently well above grade and help create this walkable neighborhood style commercial space. I also want to indicate that when we were last here in June, only our architect actually presented, and I don't even believe that it was opened up to questions for her for the public. But given the feedback that we received from the board, which was quite extensive, we've gone ahead and revised our architectural plans quite a bit, and we intend to present those to you this evening. So what I'd like to do, Chairman, unless you have any questions of me, I'd like to have our architect be sworn back in and present the changes that she has made to the architecture proposed for the development and answer any questions that the board and then the public might have.
Thank you, Mr. Wine. 1 second. My housekeeping error. We have to have our professionals sworn in. Ms. McGovern, please.
Okay, Mr. Hazel and Mr. Hess, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Wine, is it the same architect that we wadiered last meeting?
Yes, it is. It's Brittany Klim.
Ms. McGovern, correct me if I'm wrong, but she is still sworn in?
She should be, unless you want us to redo it because it was 2 months ago.
I think Wadir and swearing in is effective. Okay, so Mr. Wine, she is still sworn in, and go for it.
Perfect. Thank you, Chairman. So Brittany, what I'm going to ask you to do is bring up the plans that were submitted more than 10 days before this meeting and walk the board through, give them a little bit of a reminder as to what it is that we're proposing and also the extensive changes that you've made in the interim.
Sure, I'm pulling up right now.
Have these plans been submitted and noted? Okay, good.
Yes, they have, Chairman.
Thank you.
What I'm planning on presenting has been submitted, yes.
Thank
Since then. So we heard the comments and we appreciate all of them that we received at the last meeting in June. And we looked at the buildings along Main Street so that we could blend in with the historic character and the traditional elements that are already existing along Main Street. We enhanced the facade. So I'm showing right here, this is the same angle as last time. We see the front of the building along Main Street, and then to the right, you see the side going up Park Drive North. So we enhanced the facade, both Main Street and the Park Drive North facade. We have a more traditional look. We have more brick on the upper portion than we had prior. We have more articulations within the building. There's a lot more single windows, and on the uppermost floor, some arch top windows. The trim around the windows is enhanced. This is all up on the upper levels. Then on the rest of the building, we have enhanced band around the building, which used to be soldier course brick and is now cast stone. And we added awning to the storefront. And at the top of the building, to draw your eye up, we added a more elaborate cornice with brackets. And then moving to the back of the building, as we wrap around the back of the building, we did make some enhancements here as well, but they were more minor. The facade treatments that are in the front have wrapped around on both ends. As well, the cornices are a little bit more elaborate in the back, but not to the same extent as those facing the main streets. Now, this view, as we discussed prior, shows the building as a two-story building from the back, and that's created due to the grade change. Moving on to the plans, there haven't been any substantial changes to the plans. The only changes that were made were reflecting the window changes and the locations and the sizes of the windows throughout the plans. The rest of the plans remain the same. Just to reiterate what was discussed prior, we have 2 1-bedrooms, 2 1-bedroom with den, and 8 2-bedrooms. I don't know if you'd like me to go through the square footages as well.
Sure, you could go ahead.
Sure, okay. The 1-bedrooms are 839 square feet. 1-bedroom with den is 912 square feet. And the smallest 2-bedroom is 1,083 square feet. Those have remained the same. Moving on to the elevations. The exterior elevations have also been updated to reflect the changes, with no other alteration as far as footprint or anything like that. We feel that we've achieved the more traditional look of the building, particularly along Main Street and along Park Drive North. And the building height remains the same as it was in the prior hearing, which is 34 foot 4 inches.
Okay, Brittany, if you could also just, and I know you did it again, it was 2 months ago, but if you could go back to the ground floor plan as well and just identify what's located on the ground floor and how it's oriented.
Sure, I'm going to zoom into that area so everyone can see it more clearly. So on the ground floor, we have 900 square feet of commercial space on the corner of Main Street and Park Drive North. Then we have a trash room which exits onto Main Street, and the trash will collect in this room from the chutes above. There's a trash chute on both of the upper levels that the tenants will use. Then there is a lower lobby, which comes in off the street, and an upper lobby, which comes in off the parking, off of the parking garage, as well as some utility space, which is labeled utility storage, but it's not for tenant use, it's just for building maintenance. And within the parking lot, we have 13 parking spaces, 2 of which are EV, the handicap, as well as the one adjacent to it.
Okay, and moving back to the, I think you can go to the front rendering is probably the best image to use. Okay, if you can just describe how the front especially has been integrated to the grade level and in place of the retaining wall that exists there today.
Yes. So today there is a retaining wall that extends from actually from Park Drive South across the adjacent property and across all of our property and a good portion up Park Drive North. And with this design, we're bringing down the entry to Main Street, so it'll be much more walkable and much more appealing. The sidewalk is also greatly extended because our building is set back and all the space between the property line and the front of our building is now going to be incorporated in the sidewalk.
Okay, and the area that is what I'll call cut out to be used as the storefront, that's where the commercial space and then access to the trash and residential lobby are located, correct?
Correct. The first window and door and the second window, this is all the commercial space. And then the next entrance is the trash, which will be covered with an opaque film. And so there won't be any view inside it, even though it is a storefront. And then the lobby entry as well. And then on the side on Park Drive North, there is a a door with and window entry for people to enter, as well as the garage door. And the exit sign, which is an element that was added, was the caution vehicle exit sign that was added after the SPRAB meeting. I forget what month that was in. They had a recommendation for that.
Okay. All right, great. So Chairman, that's, I know Ms. Klim had testified previously. She's certainly available to go into more detail if you like, but my goal this evening was for her to touch on the revisions really that she's made in the course of the last 2 months.
Okay, so I'm going to start with Mr. Alper, who wasn't able to ask questions last meeting, and then we'll see if any of the members of the board have any questions or are professionals. Mr. Alper.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let me just get my questions up. Can we actually, I think I have a question for the zoning official is, can we have an opaque window, a completely opaque door window in the front, if that's allowable or not? On the trash room.
Only 1/3 coverage is allowed.
1/3 of the total. Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. If we could go to the interior diagram that shows the trash room, I had a question or two there. Yeah, if you can just zoom in. Perfect. Is there any safety issue only having the one door on the exterior? If there's a trash fire or something like that, is that a problem or anything along those lines?
Every trash room I've designed has one door,
Okay.
and I've never come across that issue.
Only to the outside of the
Correct. I've never had the issue that that there was a trash fire and one door was an issue. And the ground level is completely non-combustible.
Okay. So trash comes down straight from the chutes. Recycling gets manually taken into the trash room?
Recycling will get brought down, yes.
Okay,
Manually.
so that has to come outside and around or through the lobby and then outside and around?
Yes.
Okay. If we can go to the roof plan. Great. I know there were some questions last time about whether or not there was any consideration of having a full stairway up to the roof instead of a hatch. That's okay. So I wanted to see if that had changed at all, if you were still thinking a hatch.
We kept the hatch.
Okay. Has there been any consideration of a green roof here?
It's possible, but we chose to go with a white roof. We feel that would be sufficient for this site. There is going to be some extensive landscaping done on the ground floor, and stormwater will be addressed as well by the civil engineer.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking, and I think it would go hand in hand with having a full stairwell to get up there, is, you know, we're looking at 82% lot coverage, I think, versus 60%, 73% building coverage versus the 40% allowable versus 15% for the old building. So this would seem to me, you know, if it were possible to have something up there that people could access that had grass and greenery of some sort, that it would maybe restore some of the, you know, air, light, open space, or at least somewhat make up for the reduction in it from the, you know, previous condition.
Understood.
Any consideration on the Park Drive north side of the building of going with a larger setback there as opposed to the 5 to 6 foot clearance versus the 25 that's required? I think to my eye, it's more of an issue there than it is on the Main Street side, because as you go further up the block, the neighboring houses are set back more. They've got front yards with landscaping, gardens. You know, to me, that side of the front on Main Street, I think is, you know, replacing a retaining wall. I get that, but on the side, you know, with the residential neighborhood, this seems to be out of character to me. And you know,
I will say
5 foot strip.
the planner will address these items as well,
Okay.
and we'll talk about how it fits into the neighborhood.
Fair enough. I think some of this is definitely for planning. And probably also for planning. I'm curious if there was any sort of, this isn't really an architecture question. I'm curious about wildlife and if there was any survey of what was there in the, you know, previous lot and then vacant lot that's now going to be, you know, gone. That's not really architecture. So I think.
Yeah, Mr. Alper, I think I overheard the chairman mentioning something about at a different property, a nudist colony, that may have been some wildlife that existed here as well.
All righty. I thought I had one more thing, but I don't see it. So I think, I did want to say, I do think the updates to the building are an improvement, and I like that the rear rendering now has the correct amount of grass, as Mr. Cardoza had pointed out. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know we went through this with the architect. I'll go through the board rapidly. If anybody has any questions about the change, we'll start with Ms. Capfer.
No questions at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Capfer. Mr.
Thanks.
Cardoza.
None at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cardoza. Mr. Speraldo.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So, good evening. Can you just remind everybody, sprinklers or no in the building?
Yes, the building is fully sprinklered, will be fully sprinklered.
Okay, will that include the garbage chute that you were just talking about before?
Yeah, yes, and there are special requirements for there to be a sprinkler head within the chute as well.
Okay, and so based on your testimony before, is there slab on between the first floor and second floor?
Yes, the first floor construction is all non-combustible with a 3-hour rating between the first floor and the residential levels. The most typical way we do that, it hasn't been fully designed on this project, but the most typical way we do that is with a concrete slab.
So the concrete slab will be between the first floor and the second floor then, right? To make it non-combustible?
Yes.
Okay. I
Yes.
just want to make sure. All right. No, I think otherwise, I'm still pushing for that roof, the roof hatch. I mean, the roof door. Building that size, I think it warrants it. So that's going to be. I appreciate you doing the updates and the rendering you did, but that's still a concern for me. Other than that, I have nothing right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speraldo. Mr. Klein.
No questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Mr. Wilks.
Yes, can you repeat what's the slope on where the parking garage is? I don't know if that's really exactly the measurements. I mean, the picture looks very nice, but I don't know if it really fully represents what the area looks like currently. But what's the slope that you're going to have to replace coming even from the garage going down to the end of the corner to Main Street?
It's the same slope that's there right now. The sidewalk is going to remain at the same slope.
It's the same slope. I'm just wanting to know as far as I mean, it looks a lot steeper in person. That's what I'm saying. And that looks relatively flat. You're trying to say you guys are going to flatten that out to really match that grade?
No, there'll be the grade, the rendering, I understand your point. The grade coming in, there's going to be an angle at the bottom of that door from 20 on the high point, 249.26, and on the low point, 247.09 feet. So there will be some, the door will be like trapezoidal shape. The bottom will be angled.
Yeah, because it's a very tight street. I mean, it's just going from the picture. That's not really representative of what the street exactly looks like. But the and the setback in the back where the windows are all at and looks very lovely back there. What's the setback from the house that's next to it? How far is that?
I don't know how far back the house is from the property line. I believe at the closest point, I know this is a civil item. I want to say somewhere around 12 feet at the stairwell. But we'll have to, the civil engineer will go in detail on that.
Oh, okay. And then I guess the planner would I'll be able to ask them more questions about the specifics on the inside. How many apartments is it again? I just making some
12
notes here.
units, 6 per floor.
6 per floor.
Mm-hmm.
And how big is the space for the storefront?
900 square feet. So these are the
These are
the units.
Was anything proposed initially, or should I just ask of the planner as far as ideas of what to put there in the storefront?
The planner will get into that.
Okay. All right, no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wilks. Council President Rutherford, any questions, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do. Thank you to the professionals that are testifying and all those that are here. I'm going to actually ask questions both of the attorney who made the introduction as well as the architect. Is that appropriate, Mr. Chair?
Sure. Just name who you want to answer the question, please.
Mr. Wine, you said that the applicant was unable to get a CO upon closing. Was the property in the same condition when they purchased it as it was when they demolished it?
My understanding is yes, and in fact, and I'll just I'll ask you, Council President, to give me a little bit of latitude in terms of my timeline because this was so long ago. But I remember that my client brought to my attention, I believe there was either a violation issued or a notice that there might be a violation for failure to obtain a CO upon conveyance of the property. And my client had done the research and worked with his professional team, who basically said there's serious structural concern here. So went back to the township, I'm sorry, and was told that the alternative option to obtaining a CO is to obtain a demo permit and demolish the structure in order to be in compliance. And that's what was undertaken.
And this applicant purchased the property when?
I would have to look back in my notes. I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me.
So, in the interest of time, please send to me via email or find it before the end of the meeting who they purchased it from. I want to make sure that this was an arm's length transaction and when that transaction transpired. Those are my two questions for you, Mr. Wine. Make sure that this was a transaction that was at full arm's length when the applicant purchased it and was unable to get a CO upon closing on that transaction. Those are my questions for you, sir. Back to the architect, and I didn't see your last name. I do apologize. I know your first name is Brittany. I don't want to call you.
Clem.
Is it Clem?
Clem.
Yeah, I'm getting a little older, so my eyes don't work quite as well. This is a mixed-use property. What percentage of the property is retail?
I don't have that information.
What is the total square footage of the property?
The property or the building?
The building, sorry.
The first 1,800 square feet. The upper floors are each 8,450 square feet. The total is 25,700 square feet. And of that, 900 square feet is retail.
Got it. And I know that you made some updates, but you did not change the size or the location of the building on the lot. Is that correct?
That is correct. There are no changes to the footprint.
Okay, a moment ago, you said the setback at the rear is 12 feet at the stairwell. Is it consistently 12 feet? It looks like that is probably the longest.
The setback varies. That's on the civil plans. The civil engineer will cover that in detail.
Excellent. And can you zoom in on that first floor plan for me, please? There's something that extends from the stairwell.
This?
Yes. What is that?
A walkway, concrete walkway. There's going to be a retaining wall because as we know, the grade slopes up. So where this door exits, the walkway will have a small retaining wall, I think maybe 1 or 2 feet tall, and then it will dissipate as you get closer to the sidewalk.
And then the inside that retaining wall, is that pavers? What is that?
It's being shown as concrete at this time. It's a required egress pathway from that from stair tower B.
And how wide is that space?
I believe it is 5 feet wide.
Okay. So will the civil engineer know for certain, or is there someone else who will know for certain how wide that walkway is?
He should. I believe it's 5 feet, but he should know that.
Okay.
If not, he might be measuring it now.
Thank you very much. What is the width of the sidewalk where the retaining wall in the front of the building begins? So it looks like you've got a wider
unfortunately,
sidewalk.
that is a civil question.
Okay, I'll ask him that too.
Thank you.
You mentioned in your testimony that there's a door on the Park Street north side. I didn't see that on the slide. Can you point that out for me?
Sure, it's right here. So just below the garage door, there's a man door.
Is that shown on that first slide that you have, the illustration of the facade?
Yes, it's shown right here.
Okay, so it doesn't, that's a window next to it is blocked by
The window, and then the door is slightly obscured by the plantings.
Got it. On the south side of the property, what are the setbacks?
So that's
Civil also?
civil, so that's this side, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's civil as well.
All right. Someone asked earlier, I think it was Mr. Alpert, about the opaque covering on the trash room. So if the windows are to be in compliance with the code, only 1/3 of that can be covered with the opaque film or whatever it is you're going to use to obscure the visibility. Does that mean that trash will be visible from the street? Or are
Now,
there some type of
1/3? Is that 1/3 of all the glazings, or 1/3 of each pane of glass is allowed to be obscured?
our zoning officer can answer that. Ms. Gary Adams, could you answer that?
Good evening, board. It's 1/3 of each individual window.
Okay. So I would think it would be better to conceal the trash and have more either frosted glass or an opaque film. There are a lot of films out there that are, for example, like a gray color or slightly reflective that you don't even realize that you can't see through them.
Understood.
But I do understand your point that it doesn't meet the ordinance.
I think that's all of the new questions that I have. Let me just double check before yep, that's it for me. Thank you very much, Ms. Klim.
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Wine, please do not send anything directly to Council President. In the planning board, you send it to Ms. Jamilet, or you may send it to Ms. McGovern, and then we will disseminate it to Council President in that fashion. The question I have for you, Ms. Klim, is doesn't the RSIS require a 6-foot sidewalk in a densely populated zone that when it meets the curb?
That is something the civil engineer will address.
Okay, I'll ask that question then. Great, thank you. We'll move on. Mayor McCartney, do you have any questions for Ms. Klim on her testimony?
Well, first I wanted to start with a thank you to Mr. Wine for the summary. I did appreciate that. And to Ms. Klim, thank you very much for these revised plans. I know I reacted harshly to the initial plan, so I do appreciate this more traditional look. Thank you for that. I do wanted to ask, maybe there aren't enough units, but are there affordable units in this complex?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. And would there be someone that could talk about a marketing plan? Is there a marketing plan in place for recruiting the retail space?
I'm not sure about that. I think the planner will discuss the types of uses that go into a space like this.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Mayor, if I
yes.
don't know if you wanted me to at all jump
Sure.
off of that. One of these things, and I can say this with, a fair amount of confidence, as I do a lot of representation of, for example, 7-Eleven and Wawa convenience stores and things of that nature. This is not the type of commercial use that is going to work. Those types of uses look for traditionally spaces with smaller buildings and large open space for parking. This is, I can't speak to how it's going to be marketed, but realistically, and the planner can get into more detail, this is your neighborhood commercial type of use, like your little coffee shop or a nail salon, or things that don't generate the need for quick in, quick out, lots of vehicles.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure.
I know that there are 12 units. Can you talk about the parking variance?
She's the architect. Why don't we wait for the people who are going to talk about the parking variance to do that? Would that make sense, Mr. Wine?
Yeah, I was going to defer that to my favorite thing to say is I punt that to the traffic engineer.
Sure.
So we'll have him discuss that, and then obviously our planner as well.
Thank you.
That's it for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice Chairman Garino, do you have any questions?
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm wondering, it is for the architect or someone else, but thank you for your presentation. But do you have anything to do with the exterior lighting?
Yes, the exterior lighting, it will be discussed with the civil engineer, but you can see most of it on the elevations because unlike most of the projects I present, all four sides are shown. So you can see all of the lighting all four sides are shown in the renderings, which is unusual. So you can see along Main Street, we propose some building mounted lighting, same along Park Drive North, some minimal lighting. And then continuing around the back, really it's just egress lighting above the doors, which is required by code, one in the back over the stairwell door, and then one just to the very far right of this. We have an exit door at the electric room.
Okay, so my question's concerning light pollution, light effect on traffic on Main Street, and emergency lighting, let's say when the door for the garage is open and closing, that would go to the civil engineer?
Yes, but I spoke about it before, but the light that says when a vehicle is exiting or entering is shown on this elevation as well. I'll zoom in for you.
Oh,
So
okay.
there will be a light that flashes and alerts pedestrians that there's a vehicle coming.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll wait till the civil engineer. Thank you very much, Brittany.
Thank you. Ms.
You're welcome.
Klim, the 900 square foot retail space, shouldn't that have a bathroom in it, or you're not planning a bathroom in it?
There can be a bathroom in it there, but it is not part of the current plans. But there certainly will be a bathroom in there. We'll probably, assuming this gets approved and moves to construction drawings, we would at minimum show rough-in for that, for future bathroom.
Okay, and do you know what the size of an ADA compliant bathroom is?
About 7.5 by 6 feet.
So it'd be about 35.5 square feet. Somewhere in that neighborhood, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, do you think that a space like that is marketable, since the question was brought up, without a bathroom?
It's required to have a bathroom by code.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. Great, so there
Yes.
will be a bathroom in that space somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, great. Do any members, I'm sorry, Mr. Hazel, do you have any questions for Ms. Klim on the updated plans?
Yes, I do. Just out of curiosity, I'm looking at the layout of the first floor with the commercial on the commercial space on the corner and the trash room and the lobby enclosure. Is there any reason why the trash room was proposed there? I mean, I would assume it has something to do with the connectivity to the residential floors above, but is there any reason why it was proposed in that location, sort of in the middle of the commercial space and the entry to the building?
It does have to do with connecting to the floors above. It is typical, if I go to the floors above for a moment, I can show you. It's typical that we put the trash room near the elevator and stair, because typically a tenant will come out, they'll throw their trash in the trash chute and then take the elevator or stairs down and go about their business. So it's very common that they are generally near the elevator and the stair. Now going back to this, we wanted the commercial space to be on the corner. And then obviously there are only 2 more rooms down here. One is the lobby and one is the trash room. I guess in some ways they could be interchangeable, but we wanted the trash to be accessed via Main Street.
It just seems to me that the trash itself, not to say that it will not be maintained and controlled and would be giving off foul odors, but it just seems to me that it's sort of in the middle of everything, as opposed to being somewhat remote from where the heavily pedestrian areas will be, especially since the trash room would not be something I'd expect you'd have a lot of people going in and out throughout the day.
That's true, yes. The doors will get very little use. It will mostly remain closed. And that's why on the front facade, it blends in with the rest of the facade as opposed to having a completely opaque wall and an opaque door.
Other question, in terms of the area to the southern part of the front facade that is, you have identified as utility and storage, was the decision to keep a retaining wall in that area, was that as a result of wanting to have such a space in that location, or was it sort of just convenient because the retaining wall was there?
Well, I'm gonna go back to the front rendering because I think it helps depict it. It helps to break up the facade a little bit too. It's not just one long facade at the same level. And since we have utility space behind there as well, and we don't need access to it at this level, therefore we have no storefront that abuts it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hazel. Mr. Hess, do you have any questions for Ms. Klim on the presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I do have a question. We talk about the trash room door exiting out onto Main Street, but the solid waste management plan that was submitted talks about the pickup being on Park Drive North, and that the collection vehicle would pull up on Park Drive North, which means that I assume then you'll be wheeling trash cans up Main Street for a fair distance to and past the commercial building to get to the trash truck?
I believe maybe that's based on an older design when we had the trash room exiting along Park Drive North. The current text I have says trash and recycling will be picked up by a private hauler. The collection vehicle will pull up along Main Street. The attendee will roll out the dumpsters for collection. Once the refuse collection is complete, the collection vehicle will continue forward along Main Street. No turnaround required. Frequency of collection will be 2 times per week, which is pretty standard for a multifamily apartment building of this size.
Okay, that's not the document that I have. So could you arrange for that revised solid waste management plan to be submitted to the board?
Yes.
Thank you. And one other question, the warning lights that you're proposing at the garage, will there be any audible component with that?
There can be. I do not recall if this unit has audio or not, but there certainly can be if the board would like it.
All right, I think that's a discussion item.
Actually, I think it may be required to beep.
No,
Yeah, I
that's
think
why
there
I'm-
is a little noise as well, yes.
Right, and that's why I'm wondering, because I'm not sure every pedestrian is going to notice those lights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe there is an audio.
Okay, thank you. And then your plan only notes the lights on the elevation view, so you would amend that then if audio is proposed, you would add that to the plan?
You wanted to depict audio on the plan?
Yeah, I think right now all it says is lights.
That's correct. On the civil engineer's plan, he has the cut sheet for this fixture. I'm not sure if maybe when he testifies, he can state whether or not it includes that information on the cut sheet.
Okay, yeah, on your sheet A401, it just says it's a caution vehicle exit warning light fixture.
Correct.
So if there's an
Okay.
audible, I would like,
We could say with audio. Okay.
that's
I
all.
see your point.
So, Ms. McGovern, we're going to make that a condition that it has audio.
Got it.
Thank you.
Chairman, I had my hand up before.
Okay, Mr. Smeraldo.
I want to
Okay,
go back.
Mr. Smeraldo, 1 second. Mr. Hess, are you done?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smeraldo, you're up, sir.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Clem, we were just talking like the piggyback one, what Mr. Hess said, the audio and stuff. recently this board has been taking up action with a lot of garages such as this are enclosed. So one of the things we like to put in is one of those audio visual emergency remote stations that somebody has a problem, you hit a button, it's Wi-Fi connected, and so that if somebody's inside the garage and they don't have a cell phone or whatever, they can try to make an attempt. So I think that's something that we can piggyback along as part of the condition to add that into the structure itself. So
Like
I'm
an
sorry?
area of refuge type thing?
No, it's if you go to a lot of parking garages nowadays, they have like a box, typically about maybe a foot wide by about 3 feet tall or so. And it's a Wi-Fi remote box that if you push a button, it gets a 911 collect call type of thing to the local dispatch center. So for any kind of emergency, it's more for emergency notification, and it does have a blue light also that blinks. So I think that's something that you should consider putting in there, and then we'll make that a condition. The second thing is that I meant to ask earlier. We were talking about the 900-foot space, and we were talking about it's going to be retail. What is? I know that you can't say from the planning perspective, but if a coffee shop or any kind of food type place goes in there, what provisions have you made for any grease laden vapor type removal device, a hood, so a suppression hood, things of that nature?
None have been designed at this time, but during the construction document phase, we would potentially add in a chase for that. There are some spaces we have for chases to provide fresh air and heating and ventilation and air conditioning within the corridors. So it may be able to adapt one of those spaces or enlarge.
So you would run a hood line up through the roof, or would it be out the side of the building, in the front or the side of the building?
It most definitely would not be out the side or the front. It would, if anything, it would be through the roof. But a coffee shop, depending on what they're doing in there, would not necessarily require a hood.
That's not true. A coffee shop, if anything that has grease laden vapor, if they're making Taylor ham and egg, bacon, egg and cheese, whatever, if it's grease laden vapor, you
That's-
require the hood.
That's not necessarily a coffee shop.
Well, we can
Yeah, if you have a grill, correct, correct. Yes, if you have a grill, of course.
A grill needs a grill, and a grill, anything that produces grease laden vapor needs an exhaust.
Of course.
So most coffee shops I know usually don't just smell like coffee; they smell like a good bacon sandwich. So, and at least a good one.
Mr. Smeraldo, if I may, just because I have the benefit of
Mr. Wine, go right ahead.
Sure, of being able to text with my client, they're furiously texting me right now that they intend likely for that to be some type of either straight retail or an office type of use. So unlikely that there will be food service there. But your point is well taken, that obviously anything to the extent that whether it's with this applicant or if down the road, if 10 years from now it changes out, obviously would need to meet all code requirements no matter what.
Right. Well, so I would like to get a look at the floor plan again. So where would that, the likelihood you're saying you have Chase, is that in the garage, the garbage area?
So it would probably come up through one of these two tenants, and so you could box out an area maybe in this dead corner of the kitchen and put a Chase through there. You could box out an area in the dead corner of this closet. There are spaces you could take a couple square feet and add a Chase. And if the board would like, we could certainly add that as a condition, that there be required to have a Chase for the possible future tenant that requires it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the future and I'm also going back to my my stance on the access hole in the roof. So if that hood is going to be up on the roof and spewing out grease laden vapors, then we need to get to that roof quicker. So I'm just tying it all together. So just to make you understand where I'm coming from.
Is this a condition to require to have, called a Chase?
It would be a pipe chase or a ventilation. It's some kind of chase where we can put a roof exhaust unit in it.
Unless Mr. Smeraldo, unless we preclude a food service establishment that would require that. So if the applicant says it's not going to be, then you don't need it. They don't have to put it in if they say, well, it's never going to be. If it's going to be in the future, the options are they could put it in later on, or they could put a chase in presently. So there's options. I think the applicant will come back and let us know how what they feel.
I don't want to handcuff the applicant in the sense
Right.
of tell them they can't put in a food establishment.
Right,
That's
right.
not my intent.
But we're not.
But if they want to, then it's fine. But then I just want preparation ahead of time. That's all.
Sure, absolutely.
So, those are my comments and concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Smeraldo. Any members of the public have any questions for Ms. Klim, the architect, on her testimony last meeting or this meeting? Please raise your hand to be identified.
Yes, we have several.
Okay, before we bring anybody in, I just want to preface this by saying a question starts with which, when, why, what, where, how, and it is focused specifically on Ms. Klim's testimony. If she can't testify on a subject, she will say, I don't have that information, I don't know, or one of the other professionals can testify to that, and or Mr. Wine, the attorney, will chime in and say, this person will testify, or this is not something we're going to testify at all. So I just want all members of the public to be focused. If you want to make a comment at the end of all testimony, you may. At this point, we're not looking for comments. We're looking specifically for questions. So I am not going to be rude. I'm just going to ask you to focus, and we will move this along expeditiously. Thank you very much for coming. And first person up, please raise your hand and be identified.
Can we unshare the plans, the architectural plans? So I can run the
Sure.
clock? Thank
Yeah.
you.
You got it.
Okay, we have MKA. Please state your name and address for the record. You should be good to go now. MK? Oh, she just dropped off. Okay, we'll go to Susan Lessick. Please state your name and address for the record.
Susan Lenchick, 234 Eagle Rock Avenue, formerly a resident with Park Drive Loop for 49 years. Okay, this is in reference to what was called A1 at the last meeting, the rendering, that rendering from the front, from Main Street. This is a question, but I'm just providing context. The townhomes on the south side of the property are not depicted. But it was stated that there's only about 6 feet of property from the proposed building to that property line. Given that proximity, why are the adjacent townhomes not shown on this rendering, but rather what is shown is a grove of trees that does not exist?
So the question is why are we showing trees and not the adjacent building?
Well, yeah, the trees don't exist, but you show trees, and buildings do exist, but you don't see them.
Ms. Lenchick, are you referring to in the proposed rendering or an existing condition?
What, that the townhomes are in fact there, but the rendering does not show them. And the trees are not there, but the rendering shows them.
It's an artistic choice to show around our building. We generally show the building with a little bit of context, but we have not modeled the intricacies of adjacent properties in this layout.
Okay.
And I believe they're set back a little further as well.
What are set back further?
The townhomes.
The townhomes are almost at the property line, and the proposed building is almost at the property line. So there is very little space between them.
So Ms. Lenchick, I'm just going to direct and say that when you see the civil plans, and I don't mean to cut you off, when our civil engineer testifies and you see the actual layout of the plan, including our proposed landscaping plan in detail, that might provide you a little bit better context for what is actually going to exist should this application be approved.
Okay, thank you. All right, and maybe this also will be for the civil engineer, but I'm sure you'll tell me. Ms. Klim has testified that there would be plantings on the property. So is there a plan? I'm sorry? Hello?
Hello, I'm sorry.
Okay, you testified there'd be plantings on the property. So is there a plan to plant trees or shrubs on the south side of the property? Is that for the civil engineer?
Yeah, that's you'll see, and I certainly don't mean to be dismissive, Ms. Lenchik. You will see though, it's the landscaping plan will be presented in detail, and you can
Okay.
certainly ask your questions of the civil engineer.
Okay. Yes, but yes, I just wanted to let you know that, by the way, MK Adams was cut off. She did not cut herself off, so I believe that you'll be getting to her next. So it's the distance to the first home on Park Drive North, west of proposed building. I know, Ms. Flynn, you mentioned it could be 12 feet in some areas, but as we understood, it was only 8 feet. So the A2 rendering, which shows the back of the building, shows a very wide grassy area in that location. And given that, isn't that rendering inaccurate and misleading?
It has been revised, and what was presented tonight shows a smaller grass area
Yes,
between
but
our
still
building
that-
and the adjacent.
It is smaller, but it's still a heck of a lot more than 8 feet in appearance. So it does still appear to be, I'm sorry, the question is, doesn't it appear misleading?
So again, Ms. Lenchik, you'll see it. There is a pinch point at 8 feet, but you'll see when the civil engineer testifies that it widens out quite. There is an 8 foot or eight and change foot point, but that is not the entire extent of that rear yard.
Okay, and A2 also shows a south side of the proposed building next to the townhomes, and that does it not show an open area when in fact it's only about 5 feet from the property line? So once again, is this not also misleading? And again, you're probably going to punt it to the civil engineer, and if that's the case, that's the case.
Brittany, maybe the question is, does the revised rendering you showed tonight, what we'll call revised A2, it's not even a revised A2 because it was part of the plan, but is that more, is that more accurate than the A2 that was previously presented?
And it is, and it doesn't show much of the side yard because of the sloping of the land. You just see the top of some of the shrubs.
Okay.
All right. Now, is the depiction of the width of the bottom of Park Drive North accurate? I know that might be civil engineer. However, it is shown as part of the rendering.
I'm not certain, but the number of lanes I know is correct.
Yeah, it appears to be much wider than it in fact is. And as Mr. Wilkes pointed out, the grade of it is also misleading because it's far steeper there than it appears.
Understood.
Are we allowed, since we're pro se attorneys, to take a little bit more time?
You're gonna have to come out, Ms. McGovern.
Ms. Lenczak, are you an attorney? Is that what you're saying?
No, but we're pro se attorneys. That's what.
No, that's you're representing yourselves, and at this portion of the hearing, you're given 3 minutes to ask questions. Chairman, do they go back to the beginning of at the end of the line and they get to ask another question?
Yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's just to cycle through to make sure everybody gets to ask their question.
Okay, thank you then.
Thank you. If you have a question for Ms. Klim about her testimony, please raise your hand and be identified.
Okay, MK,
Thank
please
you.
state your name and address.
Yes, MK Adams, Park Drive South. As a pro se attorney, I'm entitled to as much time as a lawyer to cross-examine a witness. Isn't that correct?
One second. Ms. McGovern?
Are you an attorney?
I'm a pro se attorney in this hearing.
Okay, I don't understand what a pro se, are you a licensed attorney?
I am not a licensed attorney, but because our objector group could not afford an attorney, we are behaving and acting as pro se attorneys for each individual. And in that case, we are entitled to ask as many questions as an actual attorney.
yes, except for you're self-representing. You're not an attorney. All right. So let's just be clear on that. So you're only asking, you're each asking questions on your own. And the purpose of the 3 minutes is to make sure that everybody gets a chance to ask questions. It's different if you're a licensed attorney representing clients. Then you get the floor, you ask your questions, and we go on to the next people. It's not to say you won't get to ask all the questions you want. You have your 3 minutes now, and then the next person goes, and the next person, you get back online, and then you'll come up again. But we want to get through everybody's questions, and so that's the order of the way that this will take place.
In that case, then, the 3 minutes should be applied to the questions that I ask, not to the expert's response, because as I asked Ms. Klim certain questions, she could then eat up my entire 3 minutes at this round. Isn't that correct?
I will stop the clock then. And as I stopped it with Susan.
Thank you so much. So my first questions, Mr. Chairman, is for Mr. Wine, based on what his colleague, Mr. Tuvell, had testified in June.
Wait. Listen, I need you to focus, okay?
Oh, I'm focused.
Right now, we're going to ask Ms. Klim questions about her testimony. Okay?
Yes, I know. And what I wanted to do is just follow up on the question that Council President Rutherford asked about the proportion, the ratio of the retail space to the total square footage of the building based on something Mr. Tuvell had said in June.
Well, Ms. Klim testified to the numbers, so I'm sure she can, and she's the architect, so I'm sure she can figure out the ratio. Why don't you address that?
No, it's a different question, Mr. Chairman. The question was about an amendment to the RSIS standards that Mr. Tuvell brought up in the June meeting at the very beginning of the meeting. I wanted
we're now, I'd like to focus for a minute. We're now asking, hold your question. We'll come back eventually. We'd like to ask Ms. Klim questions about her testimony. Okay?
Ms. Klim, you testified during the planning board meeting on June 5th that this design, quote, respected adjacent properties. Ms. Klim, how is designing a setback of 5 feet when 25 feet is required respectful of the townhouses at 400 to 402 Main?
This will be further discussed by the planner and the civil engineer regarding the setbacks, but the property across the street on Park Drive North also abuts the sidewalk and presumably has a smaller setback.
Ms. Klim, I'm referring to the 5-foot setback from the property line to the townhouses just south of 410 Main Street. So there is a required 25-foot setback in that zoning ordinance, but this setback is 5 feet. You described it as respectful of adjacent properties. How is that minuscule setback respectful to my neighbors who live in the townhouses at 400 to 402 Main?
I
believe
hold on,
that is-
Brittany, Brittany, hold on. Chairman, can I make a point of clarification if that's all right?
Mr. Wine, go right ahead, sir.
The setback along what I believe Ms. Adams is referring to along the south side, the requirement is a side yard setback of 10 feet, not 25. 25 is a different setback requirement. But Ms. Klim, maybe you can answer the question by talking about what portions of the building fall within that 10-foot setback and what are actually compliant.
Mm-hmm. The ground floor is at 5-foot setback, but we meet the 10-foot setback at the upper residential floors.
Ms. Klim, you showed us the driver warning sign that is displayed on the side of the garage entrance. How will drivers on Main Street be able to see the warning light, especially if they're going northbound on Main Street, turning onto Park Drive North?
The light is to warn pedestrians that a vehicle is exiting or entering and crossing the sidewalk.
How long does, how much time will it take to open the garage door on Park Drive North once it's triggered by a clicker or a fob?
I don't have that data in front of me.
Do you have any approximation of the amount of time to open that garage door?
No, I don't.
But they will have to pause on Park Drive North as that garage door opens in order to enter the garage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So they'll be paused on that street and possibly susceptible to other cars turning onto Park Drive North from Maine. Is that correct?
Yes, and the traffic engineer will go into more detail on the trip generation and other elements.
Ms. Prim, on June 5th, you explained that a driveway could not be designed on Main Street because of grading issues. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Are you aware that the original plan presented by Mr. Sugar's team in 2021 included a subterranean parking level accessed off of Main Street?
So
I'm not
again,
familiar
Chair,
with those.
and again,
Mr.
Chairman, point of
Mr. Wine,
order.
Mr.
Yeah,
Wine.
this project team was not involved in 2021. My client only purchased this property in 2023.
So the question is, she's not aware. Let's move on.
When we're talking about the audible alarm related to the garage door, how many decibels is a typical warning system?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but it will be loud enough that a person walking by will hear it, but it will not be loud enough to disturb the neighbors.
How can you be assured of that if you don't know the decibel level of a typical alarm?
So, Ms. Adams, I can tell you that there are noise ordinances in effect throughout the township, as well as state requirements, and any noise that emits from this site will need to comply at the property lines with those requirements.
Since this warning system is designed to protect pedestrians at all hours, it's true that the system would not be deactivated during the evening or overnight hours. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So all residents within earshot of that alarm would be subjected to the sound at any time of day, correct?
Those walking in front of it, if the door is triggered, yes, but it's not going to be making a constant noise at all hours of the day and night.
How long does the alarm sound for?
I don't know the answer to that.
Approximately how many seconds?
I don't know the answer.
Aren't most garage audible warning systems triggered by some sort of an electric eye?
It would be triggered by the door and potentially an electric eye as well in connection with that.
So it's possible that any breaking of that electric eye would then instigate the alarm and not deactivate the alarm until the electric eye is unbroken. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with the exact operation.
I see that the clock has run out. Should I allow the next person in line to?
Yes, please. Yes,
continue?
please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please, any members of the public that have questions for Ms. Claymore on her testimony, please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we have Bill Mills. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Bill Mills. I live at Park Drive North and have been a resident of that address for over 25 years.
Great. Your question?
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, go right ahead, sir.
Okay, so coming back to the retail space and also the parking situation, are any of the parking spots designated for that retail space?
The parking will be covered by the civil and traffic engineers.
Okay. And then also regarding the square footage, for mixed use, what is the percentage that is square footage of the retail space should be to the whole overall square footage of the building?
I don't know of any requirements for that.
Okay, because it seems like if you don't count the bathroom, you're only at about, I'd say 2% of the space is dedicated to retail. If you include the bathroom, about 3.5%. It just seems like an awful small amount to consider that mixed use.
Mm-hmm.
Are there places in the plans where elevator or HVAC units will be on the roof?
Yes. Yes to
And
both.
and how much noise will those make?
A negligible amount, and they will meet whatever the town ordinance are for noise.
Okay, because you know the street goes up, so what is the roof of that building quickly becomes the kitchen window of the nearby buildings.
Yes.
It's not like above, like in a normal level city dwelling. I guess the other ones are sort of more for the traffic. I guess you're not going to address things like the increase in the traffic on the entire
No,
loop.
sir. No, sir.
Okay.
Hold that for the traffic engineer, please.
Okay. So there's 13 parking spaces for the entire space, for the entire lot, correct?
Correct.
And what is the, can you tell me what the ordinance is? How many there should be for a 20-bedroom housing unit?
The traffic engineer will testify to that.
Okay, I'll hold it for the traffic engineer then. The trash, that little trash room, you feel that little trash room is going to be adequate for a 20-bedroom unit to hold all that trash?
It's a 12-unit building, and yes, it will be more than sufficient.
Right, it's 12 units, but 20 bedrooms, not counting the fact that it's quite likely the ones that are
Sir,
designated as
ask a question, please. Don't testify. Please ask a question.
Okay. All right, I believe that's all the question I have for now.
Thank you, sir. Do any of the members of the public have any questions for Ms. Klim about her testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Okay, we have Susan Lesnick again. Please state your name and address for the record.
Oh, sorry, no, I don't right now. I didn't lower my hand. I apologize.
That's
okay.
Do any
Okay.
members of the public please have any questions for Ms. Klim on her testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we have MK back.
Great. Okay.
Great, thank you. Great. Ms. Klim, do you know how much rent Mr. Sugar's planning to charge for a 1-bedroom unit?
Sorry.
I do not know.
We're not interested in fees right now. We're interested in structure of the building. So let's focus on the testimony that Ms. Klim provided.
All right, so based on the hinge point of the driveway you've designed, it's less than required. That was identified in the SPRAB meeting in March. So isn't it true that a driver exiting the garage onto Park Drive North has to breach the sidewalk and able to see oncoming traffic and or any pedestrians that might be crossing?
That's for the traffic. That's for the traffic engineer.
Traffic engineer. Okay. All right. So I'll hold that one. Okay. So, Ms. Klim, why does this building have to be so large?
Why does the building have to be so large? I don't really have an answer to. It doesn't really address any of the testimony that I gave.
Well, you discussed the footprint and the design of the floors and the units, but why does it have to be so large? Why can't it be within the required ordinances of a B2 zone?
She testified to what the building is, why it is like that, maybe for the applicant or the applicant's attorney. So let's try and question Ms. Klim on the architecture of the building, please.
Okay. So the decreased setbacks on the Park Drive North side, won't that limit or block drivers' perception and sight distance as?
And that's for the traffic engineer.
Traffic
Sight distance, traffic engineer, please.
All right, I'll note that. All right, let's look at this. So, okay, I guess the straight retail or office that Mr. Wine just mentioned, who should I ask about that?
Applicant or Mr. Wine? Applicant or Mr. Wine?
All right, the applicant or Mr. Wine. So, the point we were trying to say before is that, like what Mr. Mills said about the such a small ratio of this building being of commercial use. The RSIS amendment that was passed in November 23, what are the specific provisions and what proportion of commercial use to residential use satisfies those provisions to potentially waive the RSIS requirements?
That'll be testified later.
Oh, I thought
She's
Mr.
testifying
Wine.
about, she's testifying about the structure of the building. How
Yes,
many
no,
floors,
I
how
thought-
wide, how tall?
I thought you mentioned Mr. Wine, so
Planner. The planner.
the planner will, okay. Then I believe that's it for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do any of the members of the public have any questions for Ms. Klim about the testimony she provided? Please raise your hand and be identified.
I'm not seeing any yet. It looks like there's no one. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Jeannie Schultz? Jeannie Schultz, please state your name and address for the record.
Janine Scholes, I'm on Main Street, West Orange. Ms. Klim had testified that the structure of the building is, I'm sorry, it blends with the surrounding area. Does it blend with the surrounding area as it is so much higher than the rest of the buildings around? And with the new accents on the building, does it make the building taller than initially planned for?
So to answer the second question first, the height has remained the same and the top of the cornice has remained the same. We have made it more traditional, but we have not changed the bulk size of the building. Now with reference to adjacent buildings, the building on the other side of Park Drive North is actually 1 story taller. It is a ground floor with 3 stories above it, and the next property is a ground floor with 2 stories above it. So there are many properties with similar height in the adjacent area.
Many or 2?
I can continue down the line, but this is really about the architecture. The planner can talk about the neighborhood.
And
in more
maybe
detail.
Brittany, maybe just for Ms. Schultz, the height is compliant with the requirement. Is that correct?
Yes, the height is compliant.
Okay.
So it's the variance that you're asking for is for half a story higher than what is allotted. Is that correct?
Correct, but
So then how is the height?
the height
consistent with
is
that?
allowed to be 35 feet and it is 34 foot 4 inches.
Ah, okay. All right, I have no further questions.
Thank you very much. Do any other members of the public have any questions for Ms. Klim on her testimony this evening? Please raise your hand and be identified.
I'm not seeing any yet. No more members of the public.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. Klim. We're gonna be done with you. And Mr. Wine, we're gonna take a 10-minute bio break for everybody, which I have been neglectful in the past. I want to make sure that I make everybody happy. Okay, 10 minutes, please. Thank you. Ms. McGovern, can you hear me? Yes? Oh, so one of my friends texts me, he lives in Basking Ridge, about somebody did an, I got to get it for everybody, an article on how wonderful Stone Hill is and how it took a non-used area and redeveloped it. And they really did a great puff piece on it. I was
Stone,
impressed.
where is Stone Hill? Out in Basking Ridge?
No, here in West Orange, the
Oh,
whatever that
is.
where the what is?
well, the executive drive, the townhouses.
Oh,
the,
okay.
Along
the-
280.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that's what it was.
Yeah, it's called Stonehill.
It's I got to get it for everybody on the board. It was really a great puff piece.
Oh, cool.
I still think it should have been a taller building with a smaller footprint, but that's just me.
But here we are.
I don't know. You know what? It's my office, I'm only there a year now. I just love the way that whole building is laid out, that whole area behind. It's so pretty. You come in and there's the Schindler Art Center, and then you go around to our office building. It just
Up Borland Drive, up Borland Drive.
Boland Drive. Yeah, it's just beautiful.
And you got the lake.
Yeah, which I've never walked to, which I keep saying one of these days I'm going to bring my sneakers, but
When it cools off a little bit.
yeah, exactly.
Today would have been nice if it wasn't raining.
Yeah, well, I'm a little scared of the wildlife up there. There's deer, there's those ugly turkey things. It's just
The turkey things are dangerous. The deer are very innocuous.
Ugly turkeys, that sounds dangerous.
Diane, I've walked it in flip-flops.
Oh yeah, with those ugly turkeys flying around. What are those things called? Those vultures? They're scary. I want to go with a security guard. Then I'll go for a walk. Those things.
Or bring beef with you. Just throw it at them.
Oh yeah, okay. That's what I want to do is bring beef with me.
And then your hands smell like beef when you're done throwing it.
And I can just put it back.
And then you have
Bring it home and put it in the freezer for a few months.
That's why we have bear sightings also.
Yeah, that's right. Put right. Then the mountain lions. I don't know. I just
Well, somebody.
I heard you, Mr. Alper. I heard you. That was funny. That's nuts.
Okay, just about waiting for a couple more people. We'll get back on the record.
We still have double Benjamins here. I'm not sure who the second Benjamin is.
That, admittedly, that's probably my client, but I don't intend for that person to testify.
Okay, can I change the name and just write applicant?
Yeah, just write applicant, yeah.
Okay, that sounds great.
I don't want you thinking that they're better looking than me, so I'm not going to have them turn their camera on.
Okay, back on the record.
You're good to go.
Great, thank you. Back on the record. Mr. Wine, you have the floor, sir.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. All right. So my next witness is Ali Rangwala, our civil engineer.
Would you raise your hand and identify? Oh, there you are. And identify yourself and be sworn in, please.
Mr. Rangwala, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Ali, since you were not sworn in last time, could you please provide the board with the benefit of your educational and professional background and the status of your license as a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey?
I have an undergraduate and a master's degree in engineering. My master's degree, I graduated back in 2004. I am licensed in the state of New Jersey, and it's in good standing.
Great. Where did you get what school did you get your degrees from, sir?
I have my undergraduate from University of Mumbai in India, and my master's from University of Louisiana at Lafayette.
Okay, thank you. If anybody has any questions, seeing none, we will accept you as a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey. Go right ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, Ali, if you can start by bringing up your plans and walking the board through the proposed improvements that we're looking to make.
Sure. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes. And just, I'm sorry, before you do that, can you please confirm for the record that the plans you're going to be referencing are the same plans dated, you can give the date, that were submitted at least 10 days before this meeting to the board?
That is correct. These plans were submitted at least 10 days before.
The date the plans were received was July 27th, 2024. Just, they're all stamped in.
Okay, perfect. All right, so Ali, go right ahead.
All right, I will start with the site plan. We had a few questions regarding setbacks, so I can go through with those questions or just present my testimony in that reference.
Could you please state the date of the plans, though? I just said the date that they were received by the town, but you need to identify the date of the plans.
Sure. The site plan was last revised May 16th. There has been no change since the last time it was submitted, and it's the same plan that we submitted 10 days ago.
And you are the maker of these plans?
Yes, I am.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, should I proceed?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, so the setbacks on the south side, we have 5 feet, 5.22 as the minimum, going up to 5.42 on the north, on the southwest side. On the northwest side, setback is 8.16. It goes all the way up to 12.32. On the north side, the setbacks are about 13 feet. I don't have exact dimension, but about 13 feet throughout the front, the north side, and then on the east side, they're roughly around 11.5 on the northeast side, going down to it's about the same on the southeast side. So the building. So basically, in existing condition, there was a house that was demolished. The proposed building is shown here. The total impervious surface in existing condition, the total impervious surface was 3,546 square feet, and in the proposed condition, it is 10,142 square feet. Do we need to go over the?
Yeah, so Ali, why don't you walk through sheet by sheet? But let's start. I believe your next sheet, you're going to go through the grading, and then the drainage and utilities.
Okay. So as far as the grading is concerned, the proposed condition, the site was graded in a way that we meet the proposed building architecture, all entrances, and make sure it is compliant with it's ADA compliant. Also, we are meeting existing slopes at the property lines. The sidewalk on the North Park Drive Park Drive north side, the longitudinal slope is pretty much same as existing, except for in front of the building, the pedestrian entrance, we slowed down a little bit to make it a little gentle. Also, the cross slopes are about two, no more than 2%, maximum 2%.
So Ali, all the slopes related on the property related to this project, I think the architect testified to the building itself, but all these slopes are compliant, are constructed to be ADA compliant. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, go right ahead.
As long as there are no constraints with respect to the existing sidewalk longitudinal slope, I mean that is where we have to meet the existing.
Okay.
And I know there were some questions with regards to the slopes, so I'll just quickly go through the slopes. I believe the maximum slope we have, a longitudinal slope along Park Drive North is 15.8%. Okay, I'm gonna move on to this. So this here is the grading plan for inside the building. I think Brittany had covered most of this. I'm gonna jump on to the stormwater management system, stormwater management design. On this plan, this is the drainage area map plan. We're showing on the top here the existing drainage area map, and on the bottom we're showing the proposed drainage area maps. I wanna point here that in existing condition, all the stormwater is flowing, is sheet flowing down along the property onto the sidewalk on Main Street. And there is no existing stormwater management system that I know of. There's no record of it. In the proposed condition, what we designed is we're catching more than 95% of this of all the stormwater that is coming on this property, and storing it in underground chambers, which is slowly released into the city sewers, connecting to the existing catch basin on the corner of Park Drive North and Main Street. We made sure that so the stormwater system was designed for a 100-year storm, and the volume of water flowing through the stormwater management system in the proposed condition is less than what is in existing condition.
So Ali, just to understand it in maybe relevant terms, given last night's storm, currently, if I understand correctly, the water would just flow off the property in the existing drainage pattern, whereas what would happen under the proposed condition is it would get stored underground, and as the municipal system frees up, as the rain gets less and less, it would then slowly pipe it in and release it into the municipal system. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So as the rain flows with the all the more than 95% of all the runoff from the site will go into the stormwater chambers, and it will be the outlet structure was designed to slowly release it to the city sewers. So it should not overwhelm the city sewer system as it is doing currently.
Okay, so it's fair to say, or is it fair to say it would be an improvement on the existing condition today?
Yeah, it definitely is an improvement in existing condition during heavy rainfall events. More than likely, I'm sure, and I would expect some of the audience here would probably testify as well. But there's a lot of flooding or water running along the Main Street, along the curb, which in the proposed condition, a lot of that would be resolved.
Okay, great. Okay, you can keep going.
All right. So I'm just going to quickly go through this stormwater management system. So basically, as you see here, all of the water flowing from the roof area is connected through storm drains, and eventually discharged into the stormwater management system. Additionally, we have inlets installed throughout the site that capture surface water coming from the way the site is graded, so that way the water flows towards inlets, which then discharges into the stormwater system. The only flow that that is coming from the site onto the sidewalk would be a small area in the front, which with the nature, the way it is slow, the entire side is sloping, is basically just flowing onto the sidewalk, but more than 95% of it is is captured and stored within the storage chambers. Here, just the cross section of the chambers, and I'm not going to go into the details of the construction details. Just gonna go slightly explain the storage chambers that we are proposing. These are Storm Tech system. It's an underground pipe storage system that basically uses connected pipes that eventually, are outletting into an outlet structure and then into the city sewers. Here we have the erosion control plans. We are providing a concrete washout on the east, on the northwest side. We're also proposing most of the trees on the existing site are proposed to be removed. We do have some tree protection that is proposed for trees that are slightly outside or just very close to the property line. So we have, as well as we are providing inlet protection for all the inlets near the proposed improvements. The utility plan, there are some existing connections that we are proposing to be abandoned. We are proposing new water, gas, and sanitary sewer connections shown from the proposed building onto the city, onto the sewers and gas lines on Main Street. We did some capacity calculations, which is also shown here on the drawing. This is for water, water capacity, and we made sure that what we are proposing is enough to service the building. Additionally, we are showing some service connection details that we obtained from the water company that services this area. I'm going to jump onto the landscape plan. We are proposing a lot of evergreen trees of different sizes and different sizes. On the south side, we have proposed some evergreen trees that go roughly about 4 feet in spread and 15 to 20 feet high. This should provide enough shading for, basically this is along the entire width of the existing building on the neighboring property, and should provide shading, at least for the first floor to the proposed building. In addition, we are proposing some shrubs, that spread roughly about 8 feet in diameter and about 8 feet high. Also, we are proposing some trees of different sizes along the west side of the property. On the north side, along Park Drive North, we are proposing some shrubs, and then on the east side, we are proposing some golden spreaders. I'm sorry, some Boston ivy, which are crawlers along the retaining wall. We removed all the landscape. Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in the previous submission, we had proposed some grass along, in between the entrances. We, as recommended by the board, we removed the grass strips, and I'm sorry, not by the board. Let me correct myself. As recommended by the township previously, we removed and replaced it with concrete.
Ali, I was just going to ask if you can confirm. So I think you showed some evergreens along the residential property lines. Is that correct?
That is correct. And these are all, different sizes. More, I think the one marked CLE go all the way up to 8 feet, 8 to 10 feet high. 13 to 20 feet height, and they spread to up to 5 to 8 feet in width.
All right, you can go
Also,
on to
we
lighting
have,
plan.
we have some additional evergreen trees that, that are 8 to 10 feet high and spread 4 to 5 feet. Now, the plant schedule does provide all the details, including the botanical name and the common name for these trees and shrubs we're proposing. I'm going to move on to the lighting plan. We made sure to comply with the township requirements to not have more than 0.5 foot candles of bleed on outside the property lines. There are we also proposed lighting inside the parking garage, but the parking garage is fully covered, so we don't expect any lighting overflowing out of the garage except when the garage doors are opening. And then finally, the vehicle turning templates, I would let the traffic engineer go into details for this plan.
Okay. All right, so Ali, I think that that concludes my direct examination. You have obviously gone through everything in quite a lot of detail. So Chairman, I would turn over this witness to the board.
Thank you. So for the first question, Vice Chairman Garina, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Engineer, for your presentation and talking about the lighting, which was one of my questions. The outdoor lighting, and not counting the underground parking, but will there be any impact on the neighborhood's lighting, any lighting pollution coming from any additional lighting that you're putting on the outside of this building?
So no, as we can see here, the maximum foot candles we have along the property line is 0.3, which is way below the township requirement of 0.5 foot candles.
Okay. The other question, sir, is, I know it's been asked by a number of the members, but the emergency sounding system and the lighting for the garage for pedestrian warning. I noticed the picture and the rendering has it flat against the building. I don't know how far it's coming out, but would there be consideration to making it sticking out so pedestrians coming up or down could see it and see the warning? Because when you're up against a building, people aren't always looking towards the building, but they're looking in front of them. Is that a consideration? And is it an audible alarm that would be within the confines of the audible levels of noise based upon our noise ordinance?
So I'm gonna let the traffic engineer answer that question with respect to the space, the location of the warning, the warning light.
Right. My question is that so when the door is open, that when pedestrians and even other cars are coming, they will be notified that there is a potential car coming out of the parking lot. And but when I saw the rendering, it seems the rendering of that alert sign is flat against the building. My question is, could it be turned, sideways so that pedestrians could see it from coming down or going up?
Mr. Vice Chair, do you mean some type of blade sign, for example? Like
Yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Benjamin. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Finish your
no problem. I was just going to ask if you meant some type of blade sign. I've seen them before. So, Ali, would it be fair to ask, is the type of sign something we could look into and provide the board another detail if such a thing exists?
Yeah, we could certainly provide more details of the sign that is proposed. But yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair, we'll look into it. I don't see that as an issue.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. I appreciate that. Will there be sufficient lighting around the garage entrance exit so that it's, visible, that it's not too dark? So even with warning, will people see that it is a garage and people will see cars, entering and exiting, particularly, especially exiting the property?
So to answer that question, I do believe that, as the cars come in and out and the garage doors, the garage doors open, there should be enough lighting from the garage that, that will illuminate the sidewalk in front of it.
Okay. And my last question is, have you shown your lighting plans for the outside of the building to the traffic engineer?
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Motz will have, if I have a question about, traffic coming, towards the building on Main Street, that the lighting will not distract the drivers from driving, carefully down Main Street.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Guarino. Mayor McCartney, do you have any questions?
Chairman, no, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor McCartney. Council President Rutherford, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do. I'm going to work in reverse order. Thank Mr. and I hope I pronounced your name properly, Mr. Rangwala.
Yes, you did.
The west side and the south side of the building, the proposed building, have landscaping. That's meant to provide some shade, I guess, between the adjacent properties.
That is correct.
It looks on your drawing and the one that I'm looking at on my computer as well, that they completely block the entire width of the setback. Is that an accurate depiction? Particularly on the south side?
That is correct. These are somewhat drawn to scale, but yes, once they're mature, they would be around this size.
So it would be difficult for someone to walk behind there.
You mean for maintaining?
Either for maintaining, but also in emergency circumstances. If that south side of the building had to be accessed by emergency personnel for any reason, or the west side of the building, I'll get to the size of the width of the concrete walkway. But if the south side had to be accessed for any reason, it's going to be very difficult. A retaining wall would have to be scaled, and then you've got to traverse the trees that are going to block the entire width. At least that's the way it looks to me. Am I seeing that correctly?
Yeah, but the thing is, there is also sidewalk continuing outside not sidewalk, but the grass continuing outside of the property line. So the purpose for these trees was to mainly, take care of the concerns from some of the neighbors, to shade the property, the proposed property. But as far as having enough space to move or go around, there is grass behind the property line as well. So we are meeting existing grades at the property line.
I think on the south side, there's a fence on the townhome property that is adjacent to the proposed building.
That is correct. Yeah, I was referring to the west side, but yes, on the south side there is a fence. But look, that's the reason why we proposed some shrubs instead of trees, and the trees that we proposed are quite narrow in spread to provide some space for people to go around.
All right,
while at the same time shading the property.
Yeah, that to me, and I'll defer to our retired fire chief, but that to me seems like it would be difficult for emergency personnel to access on the south side of the building. If we look at the west side of the building, there's a concrete walkway that connects Park Drive North to the to the stairwell at the southwest corner of the building.
Mm-hmm.
How wide is that walkway?
That is 5 feet.
5 feet?
Correct.
And so the width of the setback between the northwest corner and the property line is how much?
Just a moment, let me pull the plan up. The northwest side and the property line
Yes.
is 8 feet 16 and 8.16 feet.
Okay. And all right. Let me move on to another aspect of my questions. The stormwater management that you proposed, you said it's built for a 100-year storm, and it would store some of the water until to kind of moderate the flow into the township system. Is that right?
That is correct, yeah.
So in a week like we've had this week, where you have multiple days of rain, if that becomes overwhelmed, it will still it will flood the existing township system. Is that right?
I wouldn't say this, it would flood. I mean, we do have an overflow, that, it would still hold the water for up to, 48, I'd have to get the number, but up to 24 to 48 hours, and then start overflowing into the city sewers.
So up to 2 days, of a steady rain would be able to be held, and then after that, it would overflow into the sewer system or the stormwater system.
Well, yeah. So we the way we control the flow is, there is the outlet structure is raised in a way so that it will reduce it will limit the flow into the city sewers to a certain volume per second.
When you did your calculations, did you include in that calculation the brook that is at the top of Park Drive North, and how that brook regularly overflows and goes down Park Drive North?
No, our calculations were limited to the area within the property lines.
So there's water that comes through there that is, when we have heavy rain, the brook overflows and it just flows right down that hill, affecting all of those properties as, in the current condition. So it's not just the actual rainfall that this property would have to manage at the bottom of that hill. It's also the overflow from the rainfall that starts at the top of the hill and frequently comes down through Park Drive North. I don't know if our planner or if our engineer will be able to address that or ask better questions. I'm a layman, but that is a concern for me because there's already an overflow of water coming down that hill.
Council President, can I ask a question because I think
Sure.
It's relevant? Ali, is it fair to say that obviously that water that flows from the brook that goes, down the street is not going to be captured, but if that water were to flow onto our property, would that also collect in our drainage system?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
If it were somehow making into our property, I'm not sure how that brook flows, but if there's any water coming onto the sidewalk, it is possible that some of that water will come into the inlets that we provided.
Thank you for that clarification. And I think it's just important to also understand that flow would just normally hit our current stormwater management system, which may, impact your calculations on how much from this property our current system can handle before it's overwhelmed.
So I just wanted to, add to that a little bit. Like I said before, we looked at a 2-year, 10-year, and 100-year storm, and the runoff calculation in the proposed condition is less than existing condition.
Got it. I appreciate that. I did hear that testimony as well. Thank you for that. With regard to the sidewalk on the Main Street side, I think you testified that, and I could be wrong, but I think that how wide are the sidewalks on the Main Street side?
So it's, just a moment, it's about 6.3 feet from the property line, plus, additional 5 feet of concrete beyond the property line into the property. Going down to 5.16 feet to where it meets the retaining wall, the proposed retaining wall.
Is that the shortest distance, 5.16, or is that just where it meets the retaining wall?
That is the shortest distance. I believe it goes all the way up to 6.08 at the south side of the property.
And is that ADA compliant, the 5.16 feet?
Yes, it is. ADA requires 5 feet.
Okay. So on the alarm on Park Drive North for the garage, how far away from the alarm is it normally audible?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Is there a distance from the alarm that you normally should be able to hear it? Or is there a distance from the alarm? What is the maximum distance from the alarm that you should be able to hear the alarm?
I'm not sure of that answer of that question, actually.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the answer for that question.
Yeah, the concern is about noise pollution. There is an apartment building across the street from that garage, directly across the street. And then there are some homes that are nearby as well. And there were some concerns about the noise. So it has to be loud enough to warn pedestrians that are approaching. And I would assume they would have to be, able to hear it from some distance so that they would pay attention. I don't know what that distance is, and I'm trying to ascertain that. Can you help me understand that better?
Actually, yeah, I think the architect answered some part of that question. I'm not familiar with this requirement, but maybe the traffic engineer would maybe able to answer that.
Yeah, Council President, we could look into if there's a decibel listed with the particular model. I know the vice chair had actually asked for a different model, if at all possible, so we can look into that. And not to be dismissive, but suffice it to say, it would obviously have to serve its purpose while still maintaining compliance with the township's noise requirements at property lines.
Thank you. I think that, just let me double check my notes. I think that's it for me for now. Mr. Chair, I may have to come back with additional questions, but that's it for me for
Okay,
now.
thank
you,
you,
gentlemen.
Thank you, Council President Rutherford. Mr. Alper.
Thank you. Most of my questions are about setbacks, and I think they're really for the planner or whoever's going to be presenting on variances. But I did want to check one thing from something you said. In fact, it's on the sheet you're on right now on the Park Drive North side, where it shows the 5.14 feet setback. I think when you were reading these off, you said something about 11 feet and not 5.14, but I think 5.14 is what shows to the right on the variance table. So I just wanted to check and see what was what on that.
So 5.14 is the setback. Yes, that is correct. Of the the building from the property line on the north side.
Okay. When you read it off, I thought you said 11 or 12 feet there. You may have just misspoke, or I may have misheard, but I just wanted to make sure I was right that it was 5 feet and change there. Okay.
Mr. Alper, I think because I actually think I heard the same thing you did when Mr. Rangwala was testifying. I think he was speaking to the actual street. He was including the sidewalk width in that calculation, but the number shown there is to the property line.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else from an engineering perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. Mr. Wilks.
Yes, this is for the attorney very quickly. I mean, we all seem very concerned about the noise pollution aspect of this. Can you guarantee that the traffic engineer is definitely going to be able to answer that question? Because it seems like everybody's kind of passing it back and forth.
I can't guarantee that he can answer it, but what I can guarantee is that we will do what we can to get an answer. Certainly if we don't conclude our presentation this evening, it's easy to be able to get that answer ahead of next time. If we are looking to conclude by this evening, I would hope that either our traffic engineer or our planner could answer that question.
Well, we definitely need that answer. And
Understood. Understood.
We're going any forward. The residents are, and just as Council President Rutherford stated, there is an apartment building across the street. There are two residents right next to the property. So that is extremely important, and we need to have that answered equivocally, no matter what. So I just want to make sure, because I don't want to. We keep asking it, and it keeps coming up with everybody, and it keeps getting pushed back. But okay, as long as we have that understood. Now, if I'm back to the engineer, can you give me the distance of the garage? So the garage is going to be pretty much, it's not going to be pushed further back to where the property line is now. Are you saying that? Or is it or are you guys going to push it back a little bit? Because I'm concerned about people traveling east on Main Street. And when they make a right turn up that street, they have to, only parking is allowed on the right side of that street on Park, I believe it's Park North, the only right side. So they have to kind of go towards that area, towards the garage. It seems a little tight there. Can you give me the distance there, or you guys, is that something for the traffic engineer? Because I'm just very concerned about that. With people traveling east up Main Street to make a right, they have to pretty much go more towards the more towards your building to really get a good turn in that area.
So I'm just trying to understand. Did you mean traveling north on Main Street?
Okay, north. We're traveling towards the Dunkin' Donuts there. North. Maybe I got my directions mixed up. I was thinking.
Yeah, so Main Street is north south here.
Okay.
So what was the question again?
So is it making a right on Park Drive North?
Okay. Making a left from Main Street onto Park.
No,
Park
making a
Drive
right
North.
the opposite way.
Oh, so coming south, Ali.
Coming south then.
Coming south from the proposed building onto Park Drive North.
Correct.
No, coming. Hold
This
on.
is a
hold on.
one-way street, right? I'm just trying to
Yeah.
understand.
Hold on, Ali. I got it. Coming south on Main Street towards Park Drive North. Mr. Wilkes, correct me if I'm wrong. Coming
Correct.
south towards Park Drive North and making a right onto Park Drive North.
Correct.
Okay. Making a right onto Park Drive North. Okay.
Well, I was asking is the driveway that you guys are proposing with the door, is it where the property line is at currently, or is it going to be pushed back to allow those cars to come out? That is not a large street. And if there's parking on the other side, as far as safety reasons, I'm a little concerned about that area with somebody making a right, even a right or a left up to Parkway, because you're going back through a residential area coming through there. I'm just asking, is the driveway that's currently proposed in the place where, in other words, you're not going to push back the property anymore to accommodate the door. It's going to be right kind of where the property line is currently now.
Ali, how far setback is the door, I think is the question. Am I right, Mr. Wilkes?
Yeah, let's just work with that then.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not trying to be dismissive. I'm just trying
No, I'm agreeing. No, I want to make sure I'm being understood too as well. So that's fine. I just wanted to see if it was
So the door is roughly 5.3 feet from the property line.
From the property line.
Entrance to the building. 5.3 feet on the east side and 5.72 on the west side.
Okay. Now, everybody seems to have, as far as the residents, everybody's going to have a parking space assigned to them? Or is it part of the package? Like, how is the parking going to be set up?
So I believe that would be the question for the traffic engineer.
Well, for the traffic engineer, the parking, and who assigns it a parking? Because right now
Correct.
it seems like, based on 12 apartments, 12 spaces, I'm gonna go with the simple math of 1 equals 1. That one apartment equals one space. I'm just concerned about if they have company, anybody else in the apartment has more than one car, where does that parking go? Where does that overflow go? Because
Yeah,
the residents in that area are fairly tight as it is. Parking is a major concern, and I'm just wondering where those people would go.
yeah, either this planner, I guess, or the site, or the
Okay.
traffic engineer. will be able
All
to
right.
answer that.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I mean, it just seems like one question. I mean, it's getting pushed back to the next person. Let me see here if there's anything else that I may have for you right now. Well, you know what? I'll leave it open if I have to come back. But in the essence of the meeting, those are all my questions currently right now, Dr. Bagoff.
Great. Mr. Klein, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Can you explain on the grading plan, how will the car be oriented when it's exiting? Is it a sort of a flat spot there, or are they going to be tilted a little bit to their right?
It will be tilted to the right, correct.
Can't hear you. You're muffled.
Yes, it is slightly tilted towards right. If you look at the grading plan, it's 249.26 on the east side and 247.09 on the west side.
So it's
So yeah,
relatively level.
It is sloping slightly, correct.
Slightly, right, okay. And the lighting, can you go back to the lighting diagram? It looked like you had like 0.1 foot candles along that walkway along the west side. Is there enough lighting in that walkway between Park Drive and the rear? Yeah, is there enough lighting in that section?
So, I'm not sure. I mean, we made sure that we met the lighting requirements at the property line. I was using the lighting from the architectural plans and making sure that, those met the requirements.
You got a lot of zeros. Is that enough lighting? Zero lighting?
There are no lighting proposed. There are no wall-mounted lighting proposed on this side of the building.
How high is
wall-mounted lighting
All right.
proposed is on this side.
So the walkway itself, is that relatively level and flat?
The walkway, no, it's basically slightly sloping up. If
Up,
you look at the
up.
grid plan, yes, correct. Going towards the staircase.
Okay. How about the retaining wall? Is it the same height along the whole length, or is it very short out to Park Drive?
It is different. It is, and let me just go back to the grading plan. But yeah, it's different. Yeah, so it starts with just a little over, just less than under a foot
Right.
on the north side, and then go up to 3.5 feet, or just about little over 3 feet, and then coming down to like a foot and a half on towards the staircase.
With all the landscaping that's there, would you be able to put some sort of lights along either the building or the wall or bollards or something to light that walkway a little better?
Yeah, we could certainly consider that, yes.
Okay. All right, and then the rest is for the traffic engineer. Thank you.
Is that it, Mr. Klein? Oh. Mr. Klein?
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh,
Thanks.
I'm sorry. Okay, good. Mr. Smeraldo.
Yes, so the first thing I want to address is, the council president, was requesting, some opinion on the south side of the property, regards to access with trees and things. So how close is the setback is this building from the property line? Because I'm looking at a Google map picture also at the same time. So, so how far is that setback
So,
proposed
the-
from the
the-
property
the-
next door.
Yes, you talked about from the property line? Or
Yeah, from the
building?
property line to that, where it says 522 to that property line.
5.22
That's the 5.22 feet.
5.22, correct.
All right, and in the picture I'm looking at, there's a fence that's there from the property next door, I believe. So, and you're not gonna have any kind of staircase there getting from Main Street up?
No,
Okay, there's not gonna be any.
there's no access to this side of the property from Main Street.
Yeah,
There's a retaining wall, and we are meeting existing retaining wall at the property line.
okay, so there won't be any sidewalk, no access or anything like that, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, and I'm looking at the picture from the house next door, there's a big old 6-foot fence there anyway. To satisfy, I think, the council president's question, I think that's gonna be something that if realistically, if operations had to go from that side of the building, it's gonna be a long-term operation, and it probably, unfortunately, will be more of a defensive point at that at that point. So, I think that it's a concern, but I think the access to the staircases, both in the front and back, are probably more of a from a tactical standpoint, that's probably more what we'd have to be worried about, and including wherever the standpipe hookup is for the sprinkler system. That would be my concerns. So I think, so I hope that could satisfy your question, Council President. But yeah, that would be something that would be more of a later on in the event type of thing that we'd have to worry about setting up over there. My other question is on Park Drive North. I mean, you may have said it before. I just want to. What is the width of the street itself there, across from the garage? Yeah, from the setback and everything else.
So the sidewalk width is 5 feet. 7 feet to 7.2 feet.
Yeah, from that distance to across the street. That's you just help me. Do you have that measurement? Do I have to wait for the traffic engineer?
Just give me a minute. So you're talking curb to curb?
Yeah, curb to curb, please.
Yeah, it's about 24 feet.
24 feet. Okay. I think the rest of my questions, I think I defer the rest of my questions to Mr. Hess. Let him tell us more about his expertise. I'm curious to the flow of the water, as is several members are, and I'm happy to hear about the vaults or whatever we can to help offset the water. But yeah, I just want to make sure that Mr. Hess can address that for us from an engineering standpoint, because the flows and calculations are not my thing. So all right, that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smeraldo. Mr. Cardoza.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. My fellow board members have asked some excellent questions. I have no questions at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Kapferer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few questions. Along Park Drive North, can you, I know that Mr. Klein, I think, asked this question already. Can you say again, what's the slope at the driveway, or the entryway to the garage rather? Kind of the cross slope there, and then also like the slope down on the sidewalk along Park Drive North?
Yeah, the slope down is about 15 feet. But the cross slope is 0.5 feet on the sidewalk.
So I mean, is it like 6%? Yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense for.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's 0.5% cross slope and 7.8% cross slope, longitudinal slope in front of the building entrance. And then pretty much the rest of the sidewalk, the longitudinal slope is roughly about 15.8, 16%.
And
which is what is in existing condition. We're basically matching existing.
Is there any issue with like ADA compliance with those slopes?
So ADA, basically in existing condition, ADA, there's no way we can meet those. ADA does not, gives us a relief, because the existing roadway itself is just, is that steep, so there's nothing can be done to make it ADA compliant. So there's a relief that, since we are meeting existing.
And, okay, do you think it would be challenging for a driver? Maybe this is a question for traffic engineer. Would it be, if there is like a close to an 8% slope for a driver that's exiting the garage, is that challenging?
Yeah, I would defer that question to the traffic engineer. It would be better equipped to answer.
Okay. Just a couple of questions on drainage. Can you do you have a plan at this point for like roof drainage where it's connecting to your system?
So basically, if you look at the drawings, all of the downspouts from the roof are connected to to the stormwater system. We don't have like intricate details of them, but that is what would be proposed for all the downspouts coming from the roof to be connected to the stormwater system.
Okay, and can you talk a bit more about the chamber system that you're proposing? Like, is that do you have something? Is that I feel like I've typically seen those under like parking lots. Have you used them before in your experience, like under parking garages or under structures?
Yes, we have used that extensively for these type of applications. Yeah, these are very popular. StormTech system is one of the best systems that could be used for for this situation.
Okay. I have no further questions at this time. Thanks.
That was me. Mr. Hazel, do you have any questions?
No, not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Hess, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I have a couple if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Rangwala, the first question I have is, as you're entering the parking garage, can you discuss access to the very first parking space on the right? That's in the northeast corner or the northwest corner of the building.
As you can see on this drawing, we provided a vehicle maneuvering simulation. We were showing a vehicle backing into the spot and without making multiple moves. So this is basically the most restrictive maneuver. It's basically be able to back up into the spot in one shot. And the vehicle we use is a Ford Explorer, which is possibly one of the big SUVs that is used currently. So,
well, your turning movement plan, which I believe is sheet 17, shows the Explorer entering the site, but it doesn't show how they're getting into that parking space.
Oh, you mean exiting?
Well, no. How does it enter the parking space? It shows the vehicle turning into the access driveway, but it doesn't show further maneuvers. Is that a backup maneuver?
Yeah, that's if you see the shaded maneuver.
I don't see any shading on the plan.
Are you able to see my screen, or I'm not sure if it's clear here?
Then the print that I received was run too light because I don't have any shading on the drawings that I
So
received.
this is how the simulation, basically provides shaded lines, and we can certainly make it a little bit more elaborate in the reprint. But if you look at the screen,
right, I can see it on your plan. I just couldn't see it on mine. So then the question I have is, since you're backing in, how's that vehicle getting out?
So it could pretty much, use the same maneuver to coming out back off the spot should be much more easier than backing into it.
Well, but if you backed into the spot, then if you try to repeat that maneuver, you're not going to back out onto Park Drive North, are you?
No, it is back, it is coming forward. Oh, well, that's a good question. Basically I would need to maybe defer that to the traffic engineer as well, but
I would like to see the turning movement plan modified to not only show how you're getting in with the backup movement, but how you're going to get out of that space. Because I have concerns about that.
Mr. Hess, we can have that run. I mean, I am certainly not a traffic engineer. I would imagine you would just pull forward, then back up in a K-turn and then front out, but we can certainly model that.
Okay.
Yeah, you could.
Second question I have is on the landscape plan that you had provided. If you could call that up, please, that would be sheet 15. Okay, so the plan that I received in the latest set, if you look along the Wesley property line, I'm showing starting at the southerly side of the property, I'm showing 4 boxwoods, 3 clethra, and another 4 boxwoods. So I'm not showing on the plans that I just received the same landscaping that you have, nor do I have the same landscaping shown along the southerly property line.
So, yeah, I believe these were the plans that I had distributed to you, Ben, and these were shared, whatever, 10 days ago. So I'm not sure which plans you're looking at, Mr.
What's the latest revision date on the plan you have on the screen now?
So this is July 21.
Okay. The plan that I received in the set on July 29th, that's dated, the revision date is May 16th. So we didn't receive the latest plans.
Mr. Hess, we'll certainly look into that. These are what we submitted to the board secretary, but it could always be that they didn't make it in your direction.
Okay. And I'll raise the same question then about the sheet, the drainage area map, sheet 6. I don't know if that's saying that also has that same revision date of May 16th. The concern I have is you have the hydrographs that show the existing condition runoff and the proposed condition runoff, but they don't take into account what's happening with the storm chamber system. So I don't see any information on reductions. All I see is that under post development for the 2, 10, and 100-year storms, the rainfall rates are increased, which we would expect post development. But what's happening with the what's happening with the storm chamber system? I don't have any information on the outlet structure or any of the post development flows being discharged from the site.
Yeah, I can certainly provide you. So this is just an excerpt of the stormwater analysis. I can provide you a full report that includes all the information, including the calculations with the stormwater management system and outlet structure.
We definitely need that because I have not seen a stormwater report for this system, so I don't know how what the reductions are going to be and how the system's going to operate.
Understood.
Okay, and then the last question I have is on the, let me get the sheet. So one of the things we had asked for is calculations of the sanitary sewer flows so that the municipal engineer's office can make a determination as to whether or not there's adequate capacity. On sheet 13, which is the later revision date, July 2nd, that only shows sewer demand, but there's no calculations or anything telling us how that was determined. So we will need you to submit calculations showing how you determine the sewer demand. You know, is it for a commercial, is it based on 0.1 gallons per day per square foot? How did you base it on the residential? Was it based on flows per apartment? We need to see those the actual calculations, not just a statement saying the residential flow is 2,400 gallons and the non-residential is 90.
So we use this, the spreadsheet that we received, from American Water Company, that has detailed calculations. This is just a summary of that calculation. I can certainly send you the spreadsheet that includes, details of how these summary calculations work.
Yeah, we definitely, the municipal engineer's office needs that detailed calculation sheet.
Okay.
Mr. Hess, can I just, and Chairman, can I just jump in and piggyback with this question? Because I do have something concerned with that.
Mrs. Smeraldo, go right ahead.
Mr. Hess, I know you're dealing with our director Carballo with the the sewer system, but also the storm management is also concerned. I know you're somewhat intimate with some of the issues we have in and around the area. Are calculations required for that too, for the stormwater management for the director? I'm just asking this question as general because we have some concerns with stormwater management.
I absolutely think that she would want to see copies. Yes.
Okay, and even for the stormwater, not just the sewer, right?
Right, exactly. She could get when the engineer submits his detailed drainage report. Certainly, we can have a copy provided to her.
Yeah, I'd like to see that happen only because it's a greater problem than just this one specific neighborhood.
No, I agree.
Mr. Smeraldo, just to make sure I follow that, is that something that we would submit or something that once we file with the board secretary, it would be flipped over?
I'm just looking to see what the calculations of what you're presenting here, these particular calculations of stormwater management somehow get forwarded to our engineer so she can use those calculations in the grand scheme of all her calculations. It's just if it's possible. And again, I defer to the engineers because this is way beyond my scope of expertise. So, but I know having conversations with her a lot lately, we have a big concern with stormwater management within the town, and every area impacts another area. So,
and Mr. Wine, when you submit it to the board secretary distributes it, and I'm sure that the municipal engineer is on that distribution list.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Wine, I'm not looking for you to solve the entire town's problem unless you're willing to do so. But it's just that one little corner, that one area, because the direction of flow, I believe, goes south from there, and we've dealing with my DPW department for years and flooded basements along Main Street, things of that nature. It becomes a great concern further downstream, so to speak. So, all right.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, that's the last of my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the public have any questions on this expert's testimony? Do any members of the public have any questions on this expert's testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Chairman, we have Zayabeth is asking a question or has her hand raised.
Township Engineer Zayabeth Carvalho, please. Do we have Ms. McGovern, do we have to swear in Ms. Carvalho?
Ms. Ms. Carballo, I think you're just asking questions, or do you want to give some information? You know what? Let's just swear you in case you want to give some information, okay? If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do swear.
Thank you.
I do have one question for the engineer. Regarding the stormwater management plan, I do notice that none of the existing stormwater structures along Main Street, none of the inverts are provided for none of the inlets. Is there a way that the invert can be provided so we know how deep they are? And also, since you're going to be tying into our system and you're going to be discharging downstream, and we know that right across the street is in the floodplain, can you please calculate the capacity of the pipe where you're discharging to so that we know exactly how much is being discharged based on your routing, which is what it was being asked from Mr. Hess?
Okay, so I understand you had two questions. You needed the inward for the existing storm sewer along Park Drive North. Is that correct?
Yes, if you notice at the existing storm sewer on Main Street, if you zoom in, you provide us the grade elevation on the plans, which is like, I believe 242.67. There are no inverse, there's no direction of the existing pipes or the existing storm sewer. So we would like to calculate what the downstream capacity of the pipes that you're tying into have, okay?
So, yeah, okay, so we did, do an OPRA request for getting record drawings of the existing sewers. We didn't really get any information. I know our surveyor tried to access the manholes. They could, it was so clogged, or the inlets was so clogged, they couldn't capture the inward information. But
You can call our DPW department and we could make arrangements for you to be able to obtain with your surveyor what is needed in order to be able to obtain the slopes and the velocities and capacity of the pipes. Because once you do your routing and you're able to figure out how much flow is coming out for the 2, 10, and 100-year storms, we'll be able to figure out how much actually can you discharge into these pipes.
Yeah, so like I said previously, right, we are making sure that the discharge from the proposed conditions are less than existing conditions. So in existing conditions, everything is flowing along the street into the inlets, into the city sewers. We are making sure that the discharge in proposed conditions is less than that. So I don't expect, this to make the situation any worse than it is.
I understand,
in fact,
but if the downstream pipe doesn't have enough capacity, and let's say all you have is X number of CFS that you can discharge, that means that your system will have to be slightly larger in order to detain on site what the pipe cannot handle.
yeah, so again, to answer your question, it's my understanding that everything along Main Street and along Park Drive North is captured into inlets on the roadways and going into the city sewers. So
I'm referring
we're
to
really
the
not,
discharge that is really coming from the site. That's what I'm referring to, because when you're gonna discharging from your detention system, your underground detention system, that's gonna be basically concentrated flow.
yeah, that's true, but we're gonna make sure that the CFS or the cubic feet per second in proposed condition coming from the storm tech system will be less than the CFS that is currently coming from the site.
I understand, but just make sure that you take into account what the capacity of the pipe is where you're discharging to. Another question I have is the inspection ports. Are they large enough for to the inspections and to do the maintenance plan for this underground detention system? Is there a maintenance plan for this?
Yes, we have all that information in the detail sheet on sheet 10. It
That's
is
not construction details. I'm talking about the stormwater maintenance plan.
Yeah, Ali, if this application were to be approved, would you prepare a stormwater operation and maintenance manual?
Yeah,
I imagine,
we
Ms. Carballo, that's something that, in my experience, that gets recorded. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you have no problem doing
Yeah.
that, Ali?
Yeah, we would provide the maintenance plan as a separate document, correct?
Your underground detention system, for what it looks like it's gonna be infiltrating into the ground.
No, we are not using infiltration as in our calculations. We're considering it to be full volume to be stored and eventually discharged into those. I'm pretty sure there may be some infiltration, but we are the way we calculated its volume for the without considering any infiltration.
Has any considerations been taken as to let's say, for example, if in the years to come, if the underground detention system is compromised, will it be able to be accessible and be repaired?
Yeah, like in any other situation, yes, we would need to, go through the parking pavement in order to access and make repairs. But, we, in my experience, we have not had any major issues with storm track systems. Like I said, these are one of the best systems that are used for underground storage.
Has any soil borings been done for this proposed building?
I'm sorry, what's the question again? Any storm?
On any soil borings?
No, we have not. But again, we're not considering any infiltration in calculating the volume of the storm track system. So
I understand that you're not doing any
basically use
infiltration, but for the building structure itself, has any soil borings been done?
yeah, I would defer that question to the architect, or I'm pretty sure we would be doing soil testing to once the building structural design is done, but yes, that definitely would be done at that point.
That will be all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carvalho. Now, do any members of the public have any questions about this testimony? Do any members of the public have any questions about this testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we have several members of the public. Miss Love, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Love Gaylord, 31 Park Drive North.
I'm sorry, can we unshare this plan so I can run the clock? Thank you. If you need the plans up, we can adapt too.
No.
Okay. Great. Go ahead, ask your question.
First, I want to thank everyone for being on this late at night and just being on. I appreciate all the township servants asking great questions that show the great concern for our wonderful small community right there at Park Drive North, South, and West. I've been here about 7 years, and I want to let you all know I have just logged on from out of the country. I am on vacation, but I'm so concerned I had to settle myself to be here. All right. Is this the appropriate place to ask about the construction plan? Like how long, if this is passed, how long does the company anticipate it taking?
Ali, can you answer that question?
I would have to defer that, and I think that would depend on the applicant and the means and methods that are the contractor would use,
Well, if that's your answer, this is another question where I've been listening since the last meeting. We have more questions than you all have answers to, and that's not a good position to be in. Okay, so the next question is all this underground work that you have to do. Do you all have any anticipation on how it will affect the surrounding homes, the underground work?
Are you referring to the stormwater system?
The water
I'm sorry,
system.
the stormwater management system?
Well, I'm a lay person. I don't know, but I know a lot of things happen when you have to make a new construction. You have to go underground for water, electric, FiOS, internet, all the things, sewage, all the things, as you know, are many. I don't know as much as you do, but how will that affect our whole cul-de-sac community and then the community across the street, all the things in our surrounding area? How will all those underground construction projects affect us? Like, will you have to cut our water off sometime? Will the gas be off? What kind of things should we look forward to for your construction project?
So I don't believe, we would, there would be an outage. We are going to follow, the township standards for all the service connections. All the proposed service connections.
What does that mean?
So that there are certain standards that the contractor would be required to follow in order to make service connections.
That's not the answer. What I said was, excuse me, sir, I said, how will that affect the neighborhood and community? There are standards, but what are the things that affect? Like, what are the things that how would we be affected? Though I hear what you're saying that the township has standards, that's understood. Tell me, please, what kind of things, how will we be affected in what ways when you do your underground construction projects?
The only thing I can think of, ma'am, is when they do service connections, there may be some lane closures or some traffic control that may be required temporarily to make those service connections.
So it'd be traffic stops. What about our water? What about our electricity? What about our internet? Are there any times where they'll be cut off?
I don't expect it to be disrupted. No, I don't believe it should.
No interruption to our quality of life while you all are constructing. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, hold on. And I don't know, that's not for you. My question was, who's the target residents? I'd like to know if this gets passed, would there be any incentives for West Orange residents? But that's a whole nother thing. And I know this is limited to just what you can testify to. I will have more questions for traffic. That's the big thing. And then our overall quality of life for our beautiful historic neighborhood. So my closing statement, I got 58 seconds, great. There's a lot of community interest in voting no for this variance. The design.
Ma'am, there'll be time later to make comments. Right now, the time is to ask questions.
Okay.
Please,
The design,
Mr.
have you
Rangwala.
considered people? I'm looking at my notes here. I want to make sure, I'm a lay person. It's my first time doing something as
That's
formal as
okay.
this, so
That's why
please
we're
bear
here to
with me.
help.
I
That's why
said,
we're here
thank
to
you
help,
for your
ma'am.
questions. How would underground affect us? He said it won't affect any of us. Who's the target? That's not. Okay, so that's the end of my questions for this area. Thank you for allowing me this time.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Do any other members of the public have any questions for Mr. Rangwala? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we do. We have Miss Adams back again. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Kay Adams, still on Park Drive South. Mr. Rangwala, I appreciated your testimony. Could you please review the modernization of some of the infrastructure that you intend? Is it just for 410 Main, or is it on a larger distance on Main Street?
So I believe you're referring to, I'm assuming you're referring to the stormwater management system. So as you heard before, this would certainly improve the overall, stormwater, the surface flow situation that we currently see.
Okay, did you?
Well, improvement to this area, to the area.
I'm so sorry, you froze for a moment. So I missed what you said.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, would you repeat that, please?
Yeah, so yes, there should be improvement with respect to the stormwater, the surface flows from rainwater.
Thank you.
With respect to the new stormwater system we are proposing.
Thank you. Is it true that you also intend to move the gas line from the main infrastructure? Are you moving the access to 410 Main Street gas line down further south?
Yeah, so we're basically abandoning the existing service connection, not the gas main, but yeah, the gas service connection. And we're gonna propose a new service connection further south.
Thank you so much. Service connection is the phrase. So are you modernizing any of the other service connections that would impact the neighborhood? For example, electric or electric?
Yeah, so electric again would be a new service connection, as well as the sanitary sewer and the water.
Okay, because this building will significantly intensify the density of our neighborhood, are there any plans to update or modernize any other parts of infrastructure that would, that we as a neighborhood access?
So, I believe, portions of the sidewalk that we are replacing would be made, new, so that possibly could be considered as, infrastructure, that will be modernized.
Do you intend to modernize any of the utility infrastructure, I should say?
No, not outside of the property, nothing that we have proposed on those plans.
Thank you. So most buildings in this neighborhood are 70 to 100 years old, so our infrastructure is old. Are you aware that we experience frequent blackouts, particularly during windy or stormy weather?
I'm aware of New Jersey in general, but no, I'm not aware of this, this area in particular.
Thank you. That's all for now.
Okay.
Yes, we have more members of the public. Bill Mills, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, this is Bill Mills. I live on 11 Park Drive North. And I have a question for Mr. Rangwala. And I appreciate all the other questions that the members of the council have been asking, and it seems that there's a lot of concern over the stormwater, and that's what my question is about. I keep stating that the situation is going to be better for the stormwater. I'm not a hydrologist or a civil engineer, so forgive me, but I am able to observe the conditions in my neighborhood, and when it rains, 100% of the water on my property, including the water from my roof, my driveway, the shed, the walkways, is absorbed by my lawn. I don't see any of it running off onto the street or into my neighbor's property, nor do I see my neighbor's property up the hill, their water running into my property. So the soil is a pretty good way of absorbing even a heavy rain like we've experienced in the last couple of days. Currently, there's quite a lot of soil exposed, meaning not the soil itself, but with grass and trees and et cetera on that property. Basically, that's going to disappear. Your pretty much footprint is going to cover. I don't want to throw a figure out there and be misleading, but it looks like I don't know, 90% of the property that would normally be absorbing the water. I've walked past that property many times in rains and heavy rains, and I don't see water cascading over the retaining wall down onto the street. So I feel pretty confident to say that the water is pretty much absorbed for the most part, with the exception of maybe like some super severe events by the property. So I'm having trouble understanding how there's going to be less impact of the runoff when now suddenly all of that water has to be collected and diverted into the sewer that was just being absorbed into the ground previously.
Yes, just to answer that question, right? We designed this system for 100-year storm, which is once in 100 years, but that doesn't mean that, there are intermittent storms like a 25-year storm or a 10-year storm. So, this system, that said, when we do our calculations, we do consider all different surfaces that the water, the runoff would flow through, and in our calculations we see that the overall flow from this entire property in the proposed conditions, something that we will share with the township also, is that in a proposed conditions, as per the calculations, we make sure that the overall flow from the property is less than it is in existing condition. So as you mentioned that all the water flows through the grass, we in the proposed condition we are basically catching all the surface flow, almost 95% of the surface area, into inlets which is then further, traveling through storm drains installed throughout the property into the storm chambers underground.
Yes, and I get that, and I appreciate that. It does look like you put a lot of thought into that. What I'm questioning is, when the water previously was being absorbed by the ground, now it's having to go into the sewage system. Whereas you had been saying pretty much it's less water is going into the sewage system or going into the overall stormwater system. But it looks to me like it would be actually more water because you have no arable land absorbing the water.
So when we do our calculations in existing condition, we do consider the existing grass area, and we use something called the standards that we follow, which are what the township and the state requires us to follow to do these calculations. We do consider the existing surface area, and in this case, most of it was grass. So the flows that go through these existing surfaces, we follow whatever the requirements are to do the calculations. And some of in these calculations, it does consider infiltration into the ground. So basically that all of that what you just mentioned is taken into our calculations in consideration. But so as for example, like grass, I'm just gonna give you a comparison. Grass area would have a surface number 0.6 as compared to a pavement a driveway which would have a 0.98. So it's almost 0.2% per chance of water percolating as compared to 0.4% for grass, or sorry, 40% for a grass. So yeah, we do take into account infiltration into the ground in our calculations.
Okay, I'm just questioning the accuracy of your statement saying that it's going to impact the system less. I know you're calculating, you're figuring in the absorbency of the ground into your calculations of what's happening, but it seems like you'd be actually impacting the sewer and the storm drainage system more based on the way your everything has to be diverted into that as opposed to being naturally absorbed into arable land.
Well, Mr. Mills, Ali, maybe you want to explain again how the detention function and slow release function works.
Yeah, so basically the detention chambers are designed for a 100-year storm, which means that it has enough volume to hold water for a period of time before we slowly release. We have an outlet structure that only releases water as per that we intend to go into the city sewers, which we make sure is less than what it would go in existing conditions. So the outlet structure makes sure that whatever water that is released from the storm system is not immediate. It holds it, and does not flood the city sewers, and it only releases a small volume at a time.
But what if the amount of water flowing exceeds what you're capable of holding? The water does have to go somewhere, doesn't it? I mean, you don't have a bottomless capacity.
Yeah, that's so that's the answer to that is that it is designed for a 100-year storm.
Any more questions, Mr. Mills?
No, I still don't feel like my question was adequately answered, but no, I think I could be fruitless at this point.
Thank you very much. Do any other members of the public have any questions?
Yes,
One second, Mr. Klein.
Yes.
So, Mr. Rangwala, maybe, is there a way to equate the number of gallons that's leaving the site today, it's getting into the system in Main Street, and then the number of gallons that would be leaving the site in the future with the building in place and your system in place? How many gallons per hour per day, feet per second, cubic feet per second, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so just to give you a number, right? And of course, we will share these calculations with the township engineer or with the township. But in existing condition for a 2-year storm, we calculate 0.637 cubic feet per second. And in the proposed condition, it is 0.546 cubic feet per second. So which is less than existing. For a 10-year storm, we have 1.156 cubic feet per second in existing condition and 1.063, which is less than existing. So that's 1.063. And then for a 100-year storm, we have 2.183 cubic feet per second in existing condition and 2.081 in proposed condition.
All right, so to follow up with that, so can you explain, because it doesn't seem to make sense, if it's 100%, just about 100% grass, you're saying that even though it's 100% grass, about 40% of the water that comes down is going to run off.
Correct. That's for our urban grass areas with compacted soil. Not all the water that flows to the ground is going to go infiltrate into the ground. It may seem that way, but it doesn't.
Right. Okay. So what Mr. Mills was saying is that he never saw any water running off of this site, and he doesn't see any water from his property running off his property into the street. He says it's all being absorbed into the soil. Is that a true statement? 100% of the water is being absorbed into the grass.
I don't believe it is, but I can't say, I don't want to question if it's a true or false statement, In my opinion, there has to be some surface flow.
Okay. Right. Because if you look at your lawn in a heavy storm, if it's on a bit of a hill, some of it will start to puddle and then it'll start to run down the hill. Correct. Okay. Just want to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Great. We do have other members of the public.
Go right ahead.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Susan Lenchek, 234 Eagle Rock Avenue, 49-year resident of the Park Drive Loop. Okay, regarding the Boston ivy that was suggested to be planted along the retaining wall in front of the proposed building, is there a chance that that ivy will then spread to the retaining wall in front of the townhouses?
So, we would certainly have maintenance of the landscaping that would be done by the owners. So I'm pretty sure that would, your concern would be handled that, with the maintenance of the landscaping.
Okay, and how about, you indicated that there would be trees and shrubs planted along the south side of the property. If the roots from those trees and shrubs impact the retaining wall in front of the townhomes, which is very possible because tree roots do damage retaining walls, then who would be responsible for repairing the wall if it's the plant from your proposed property that's impacting the property of the townhomes?
So again, let me just let you, as what we're proposing, we have shrubs closer to the retaining wall. There are existing trees already that we are not proposing to be removed, which are closer to the retaining wall. The trees that we do propose are at least, let's see, at least one moment. Let me just get that an accurate answer for you. At least 50 feet from the retaining wall. So I don't believe we would see any roots from those small evergreen trees that we're planting on the south side going anywhere close to those.
How tall are those evergreens supposed to grow?
In a mature condition, those would be 15 to 20 feet and 3 to 4 feet wide.
Okay.
So these are those evergreens, which you use to shade properties, and are commonly used in New Jersey.
Okay. Now on the west side of the property, you also have proposed plantings there of trees and shrubs. Now, do you realize that on that side there is also already a privet hedge that is along the property boundary that belongs to the property next door on Park Drive North? So how will your plantings impact the planting that is already there? Would it not make it somewhat crowded, so it'd be difficult for a fire or emergency to get through there, because you already have an existing hedge as well as whatever you're going to plant there?
So I know that we would be removing all existing trees and plantings inside the property in that area. I'm not, I don't have the information of, all the plantings on the other property, but I'm pretty sure, their on-site, changes could be made during construction if it was determined that it would, cause any obstructions, of course, with getting permission from the township.
And from the neighboring property.
So I guess, I don't know, I want to defer that question to,
Yeah, Miss Lenchik, I'll step in here as, as a matter of law. Anything we do on our property with respect to site improvements, should not have any impact on any of the neighboring properties' physical boundaries. The landscaping that's being proposed, as Mr. Rangwala testified to, is entirely within our property limits. And as there was some questioning by a couple of board members, including the former fire chief, regarding access to the building, and along the side you're referring to, there is a 5-foot wide walkway before you even get to the landscaping. So, to Mr. Rangwala's point, the proposed landscaping should have no impact to any of the existing landscaping on the neighbor's property.
Okay. Now, with regard to the sidewalk that's along Main Street in front of the proposed building, it was stated that the narrowest part is about 5.16 feet, and that it's ADA compliant. But are you aware that there is a New Jersey Transit bus stop there? So there will be commuters waiting. There is a senior citizens home only about a block away, and you have residents in motorized chairs that will be trying to get by that sidewalk, children going to school, trying to get the school bus, maybe families with strollers and children. That's a lot of volume that would have to be squeezed into that small space, and to the point where it's most likely that some people have to step into the street in order to make way.
Yeah, Ms. Lenchik, I'm going to address it again as a legal issue. The public right of, and Ms. McGovern can correct me if I'm wrong, but the public right of way is the public right of way. It exists today as a certain width sidewalk, and I don't believe that's being changed. The improvements, obviously you heard Mr. Rangwala say that we're going to be replacing sections of the sidewalk to improve them, from an aesthetic and practical and utilitarian perspective. But, all of the other site work is being done within our site.
Okay, and the last question for now is regarding that the alarm for the parking garage. And I know you said you wanted to make sure that it complies with whatever the township ordinances are. Now, is the ordinance different though at night than it is during the day? Is it supposed to be less loud at night, and how will that impact safety?
Sure. So it sounds like you've done your homework. There are definitely different decibel requirements during different hours, and that will certainly be complied with.
Okay, thank you.
Great. We have a couple of more members of the public with questions. We have Jasmine Santana. Jasmine, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Santana. I'm on Park Drive South. So, my first question is something that has been brought up. It's about excavating the land. I know that the house that was there previously was, built in 1790. And as far as getting the entire property level with the street, at least in the front end, would there need to be like blasting or anything that needs to be done that might affect the integrity of these homes that have been here for over 100 years, a lot of these homes in the Horseshoe community?
Yeah, I don't believe that to be true, but again, I would have to defer that question to the contractor's means and methods, and any issues that may come across during construction. But I don't believe that there would be any blasting that would be required.
Okay. And then my other question was, in the garage, can two cars pass each other at the same time? Or is it just one car at a time in the garage, like open space?
Yeah, I wanna defer that question to the traffic engineer, but I believe it is, designed for two cars passing each other.
Okay, but the door itself, the garage door, is just one car at a time, but inside it can be two cars? Like side by
I think that
side?
includes the garage door as well. It's the two-way garage door.
Okay.
But the architect or the traffic engineer may be better, provide a better response.
Okay. And I had a question about the drainage as well, but I think it was covered. I just wanted to also mention that in the garage, will there be like a drain for if there's any water coming down the sidewalk and maybe going into the garage? Because I know I have a sump pump and a French drain in my house. So there is a lot of water that comes down the hill, and I was wondering if it's gonna flood in that garage, and then there's gonna, those cars are gonna have to move or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. And yes, we are proposing floor drains on the garage floor.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Great. Any other members of the public that wish to speak? Have a question? Last call. Any other members of the public? Okay, we have Gail Osby. Oh, Gail went away. Gail, did you have a question? Yes. State your name and address for the record, please. You should be able to speak now.
My name is Gail Osby. I live at 27 Park Drive North. And I just have two questions. One is in reference to parking. I heard Mr. Wilkes and also Mr. Rutherford ask questions concerning the parking, and at this point you were not able to answer them or to give them that information. But that is like a pet peeve or a very big concern for me, because I live towards the top of the hill. And a lot of times what I'm seeing are people double parking on the other side, on the side that says no parking, which causes problems as you're trying to drive out of your driveway. So because our driveways may be narrow, we're actually having, I have difficulty driving.
Ma'am, you should ask a question. And the first part is this sounds like traffic enforcement. That's what Town Hall Police Department is. Secondly, the traffic engineer be able to help you with the other parts of your question.
Okay, but my question is, when will you have a response for this question?
Yeah, so Miss Osby, it's an excellent question. Our next witness is the traffic engineer, who is going to answer all the questions related to traffic, parking, and site circulation.
Okay, so attached to this question is, will you provide alternate parking spaces somewhere within the town for the apartments that are being built? If you have a two bedroom apartment Therefore, you might have 2 cars. But right now, you're only providing 1 space. So where do you suggest, or where would you suggest that second car be placed? Because that's just going to create more congestion. That's
Again,
my question. Right.
It's a great question, and I'm not trying to be dismissive. I hope you can appreciate that.
No.
The traffic engineer is going to answer that exact question. He has that in his testimony, and I doubt it's going to be this evening just based on the time. But to the extent that it is, you'll get that answer.
So probably the next meeting that you have.
Well, I guess we're going to figure that out, shortly.
Okay, and my last question is in reference to the construction of this building. How long will it take for you to construct the building? And the reason why I'm asking that is because will it affect how we are able to enter into our onto the street and exit out of the street? Will it affect or will you close down sections of the street or parts of it in order to construct? How will that affect the residents who are living here right now?
So, yeah, Ali, are you able to answer that question?
Well, I would say that yes, if there are any sidewalk or curb related improvements, we may have to propose some traffic control, but I don't expect that to have any road closures, or lane closures.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what I wanted.
And Ali, that would be coordinated with the police department. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, because one thing that I do notice that anytime they work on our street, the state troopers or the police will block off the street. So we don't have access of going out the proper way. We may have to go out the exit or whatever. We have to turn our cars around midway. So that's my concern. And especially in the wintertime with the snow removal and snow being on the ground, is very difficult to manage this street. So with additional parking or if the parking situation isn't remedied, that would be a major concern, I think, for all of us. All right. So if you could, I'll be at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we're going to stop testimony and comments and questions. It's 10:57. Mr. Wine, we can have you at the September 4th planning board meeting. Will that be good for you and your experts and applicant?
So I would say let's do it. I can tell you that my planner is likely unavailable that evening. But I know that it sounds like we're going to have some additional foundational testimony, as well as obviously our traffic engineer. So I certainly would love to take the next available meeting, and we'll kind of see where that goes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smeraldo.
If I could too, Mr. DeWine, if possible, I was going to ask that question to the traffic engineer too, because of my background and everything with the town and traffic. Could you ask your traffic engineer to answer all those questions in regards to what kind of emergency flow or any kind of planning for the operation, whether it be cranes, because their testimony was given earlier that concrete flooring is going to be putting in, so that's going to be long-term projects, several days and stuff. So if we can try and get some kind of study together or plan ahead of time, so that it could answer a lot of questions for those who are in the audience.
Yeah, we can certainly try to do that. I can't promise that it's going to be my traffic engineer who can get those answers, but we'll try to do our best on our homework, Mr.
Yeah, I'm just trying to help, facilitate the process, because that was going to be one of my questions anyway. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, at this time, PB 24-06, 410 Main Street Holdings LLC, Block 113, lots 262, 264, and 30S, 410 Main Street, will be carried to the September 4th planning board meeting via Zoom. There will be no new, what's the word?
Notice.
Sorry, I just couldn't spell that. Well, I'm old.
That's right. You're old now.
Right, he's old now.
No new notice required. Okay. The next regular planning board meeting will be September 4th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom. The next special planning board meeting will be held August 14th in person at 6:30 p.m. at Town Hall and will be available to be viewed via Zoom. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Aye.
Mr. Klein, I
Aye.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Second that motion.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes are above the nose. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you,
Good night.
everybody.
Aye.
Take care.
Good night, everybody.
I don't.